We are in the, what do you call it now? The time of lies. 7 days out from the National Football League's 89th annual NFL draft. 89 years they've been doing this, and for 89 years they've been lying. Weeks out before the NFL draft. 89 years that have produced, and men that have been drafted, 25,000 men have been drafted in the National Football League. Pretty cool. Over 100 years. And what a great setting. It's going to be at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Pretty awesome stuff. Hey, I do want to do this before I get going here. Big Sil's got a tip-off here. You know that conversation between the Eagles and the Giants? Dallas Goedert and the Giants and the Eagles. Here is what the New York Giants wanted for Dallas Goedert. Okay, they wanted to send Kayvon Thibodeau to the Eagles, and they wanted the Eagles to give them a 5th round either this year or next year. Now, that sounds right to me. Now, the problem would be this. A healthy Goddard makes the New York Giants better. Okay? Makes them better, and you would have to see that dude 2 times a year. Now, obviously, the quarterback situation is still yet to be played out yet in New York Giants. But to me, Howie's probably looking at better options. I don't believe he wants to keep Dallas Goedert in the NFC. And I don't believe Dallas Goedert and Howie Roseman most notably wants to keep him in the NFC East. That would be quite the show this coming season, seeing Zach Ertz twice and then seeing Dallas Goedert twice. And if those teams end up beating you, that wouldn't be something that would be high on the resume. I'm thinking for Howie Roseman, sending Dallas Goedert to the New York Giants. Again, I'm not saying that scares me or frightens me, and I don't think that's a bad deal. I think that's a good deal for both. Now, again, I would sit there and ask you, what do you think of Kayvon Thibodeau? This makes me know now that they want to get Abdul Carter, the kid from Penn State. They want him. I'll give you my predictions on how I see the top 5 guys going. Titans, Cam Ward. Browns, Travis Hunter. Giants, Abdul Carter. Patriots, Will Campbell, LSU. And Jacksonville Jags, Mason Graham. Unless there's a trade. And it's the first time since 1967. You hear me? This is pre-merger. You hear what I'm saying? This is pre-merger. This is the first time the National Football League, all teams still have their first pick. That is uncommon. It hasn't happened in over 60 years. So, I mean, that's what they think of this draft. They're waiting all the way up until the 23rd hour, I think, to start making moves. This hasn't happened since 1967. Every team has their picks still on the board. So that's something to keep an eye on here. Seals, you trade for Kayvon Thibodeau and draft Malachi Starks in round 1. That starts to look like a top 10 defense. Yeah. You got to worry about depth still. You're starting to put the pieces back together. Humpty Dumpty Eagle defense number 1 fell off the wall, putting the pieces back together again. Yes. That's what this is, getting the right chess pieces. Something that resembles of a year ago. Kayvon Thibodeau, again, I think he's a good football player. He's cheaper than Walker down in Jacksonville if you want to go down and get that kid for a trade. I'd rather have Walker. Now, Walker's going to cost you more. So the Giants want Dallas Goedert. Goedert is a trading piece right now to move up in the draft. I believe this. This is why he hasn't done anything or said too much about Dallas Goedert. And it's really, the writing is on the wall. They're telegraphing that they want to move off the player. Ask yourself this. Howie Roseman, the GM of the Eagles, doesn't telegraph anything. How many times did he tell you in that presser the other day, we're not going to tell you about any pending moves or any players that we like, except they're telling you everything you need to know about Dallas Goedert. Didn't you hear the head coach telegraphing? Well, you don't have to have a one-all tight end. They're telling you, we are trading him. Best suitor, come get him. And the Giants were one of them last week. Look, I think this is completely changed. I think this has changed. I think trading inside the division and getting equity and getting great pieces for your team, I think that's old school shit out the window. I think these modern day general managers don't care about that. They're looking to make their roster better. And whatever they think that is. Hence last year you saw Jahan Dotson being moved in a interdivision move. Those were unprecedented. About 10, 15 years ago. You never saw that shit. That stuff's out the window with these guys. These new GMs don't care about that. They're looking to make their roster better at any moment with any player they possibly can. That stuff is gone. Stark's generational talent. He learned from Bowers. He started Q first round, Coop second, secondary wins rings. Ask the Chiefs how life is without Snead. Great take. Snead was missed in that game, in the passing game, against the Philadelphia Eagles in that Super Bowl on February 9th. He was missed. That's a fact. He and a running game were missed by the Chiefs. That old line has to be fixed in Kansas City. So when I heard this, I was like, if you plugged it in, it sounds right. Goedert to the Giants. Eagles get Thibodeau, a need. By the way, if I put Kayvon Thibodeau in this year's draft, where would he go? He'd probably go still in the first round. I heard John and Xander talking about the evaluations between Malachi Starks and the 4th and 5th. I happen to disagree with John on this one. I do not believe that those edge rushers have a higher grade than Malachi Starks. I think the top three do. I think Abdul Carter, the kid from Georgia, and Mike Green, and the rest do not. That kid Walker from Georgia does. The rest of them, they do not. By the way, if it's even, let me ask you a trade movement. If it's even at 32, let's just stay there for a second. If it's even at 32, and you got an edge rusher or you got a need position, you guys have been telling me the entire offseason, I'm good with Jalen Hunt, Joshua Uche, and also Nolan Smith. You guys are telling me yesterday they're comparable comps to Josh Sweat and the rest of these guys. Have you not been saying that? The glaring need is that safety. And you got a guy who's really a first. How about this? Do me a favor. Take a look at some of the mock drafts and ask yourself if Malachi Starks is not involved in every one of them in the first round. And then take a look at your favorite edge rushers. They could be anywhere from 10 to 40. He's in the first round in every mock draft. You know why? He's a first-round draft choice. Hey, let me ask you something else here. I heard Xander and John saying this. By the way, make sure you check out Bird 365. If The safety position is not a value position. And having a guy in the middle of the field, then why are the Philadelphia Eagles bringing in cornerbacks when you supposedly have a corner you drafted in Cooper DeJean and you haven't moved them out? Why are you looking at 7 different guys to play corner if you guys, all of you, Xander, John, think the guy can play corner? That doesn't make sense. If you think he can play corner, shouldn't you be bringing tight ends and defensive tackles in? Shouldn't you? Edge rushers, O-line. No tight ends. And barely edge. I mean, this doesn't make sense. You're bringing in 10 guys because you don't like Kelee Ringo. Hey, by the way, all of you guys in here saying you like Kelee Ringo, it's funny, the Eagles don't. Look at their actions. Last 3 drafts, all top 3 picks have been those 3 picks have all come on visits to Philadelphia. So, I mean, you're contradicting yourselves. Sills, we have the corner to play. Cooper DeJean. Why are you bringing 8 guys in then? Why are you looking at corners? Why'd you bring a free agent and Adoree Jackson in? If you think you got the guy in the building. You got the defensive coordinator saying we're going to keep him in the slot. They don't believe he can play corner, or they'd move him. Wouldn't they? Shit, you didn't think that Mekhi Becton could play tackle. Hey, why don't you play guard? Okay. That was an easy move for Nick, right? Just a quick suggestion to Jeff Stoutland. Hey, why doesn't he play right guard? You're not doing that with Cooper? Why? Because you don't believe he can play it. You just don't believe it. This show's not for you, dude. Hit the like button, guys. We appreciate all of you guys being here. He's a great slot. Okay. So you're defining him then as a great slot, right, Charlie? Okay, Charlie, then he's a slot. Stop talking to me about him being a corner. Okay? That's why you're looking for corners. You don't believe in Ringo, and you don't have a corner right now on the team. Okay. How about this? You think it was a mistake letting loose Slay? Do you? Do you think it was a mistake letting Darius Slay go? Shit, I haven't even got off the first page again. I still got more to go on the first page. So the Eagles are moving off of Dallas Goedert, and they're moving off half of Darius Slay, 2 positions they don't have a plan for yet. How does that sound? Am I wrong? What's the plan? What's the plan? What's the plan for Goddard? By committee? Darius Slay, a free agent, and Adoree Jackson. You're not drafting a guy in the first round at corner, I don't think, 2 years in a row. 3 guys. In equity picks the top 2 rounds. What's your plan? I'm asking you what your plan is. Okay, Professor, what's your fucking plan? What's your plan at tight end? What's your plan at corner? Told you this the other day. They're more concerned with 2026. What's your plan? So far, you don't have a plan to replace Dallas Goedert. You have a committee to replace him. Potentially draft a tight end. Okay. That's funny. They haven't brought one in or looked at one. They're going to draft a tight end in later rounds. They're not drafting a tight end. Why would you draft a tight end when you have the guy? This does not make sense. Let me ask you something. Is Dallas Goedert better than any guy in the draft for the next 3 years in this year's draft? Maybe the kid at Penn State is better. Is there a guy in this draft that's better than Dallas Goedert? If no, you're downgrading. Who's better than Dallas Goedert that's never played an NFL freaking down? Tell me, Samuel. A guy from Michigan who the quarterback during the national championship year threw 300 passes. I'd really love to see the non-production from the tight end from Michigan. Right. Because he's prolific. Help me out on this. I must have missed all those 100-yard games and how spectacular he was this past season for the Michigan offense. Is there any tight end in this draft better than the guy you have on your... Isn't it funny how people think we're going to draft a tight end and we'll be okay? Really? That's not the case. You've got a guy in the building. And to me, when you move, hey, isn't this make more sense? Well, if we move off of somebody, we're going to have a plan. We're going to have a plan. Right? You don't have a corner plan for Darius Slay, and you have nothing for tight end. You know what the problem is, though? I can get the Slay move because of the injuries and the age and the money. I totally get that. I don't get the Goedert move. The Goedert move is actually more perplexing than the C.J. Gardner-Johnson move. You've got the fucking guy in the building. He can block. He can run. This guy's got 3 years. I get it. He's injured. But if you're talking to me about an all-in-one player, you're telling me you can't get a guy to help Dallas Goedert out? How about strengthening the tight end room and keeping Goedert? Doesn't that make more sense? You're downgrading at another position on the team. The Eagles, if you draft the guy, you're downgrading. If you fucking take anybody but Tyler Warren in this draft, you're downgrading a tight end. You're going to draft a tight end next year? Okay. Is that your plan? The Eagles have no plan at 2 positions, actually 3 positions. I'm going to make a point to you here in a second. Well, I'll do that in a minute here. What's your plan? Also going to tell you one thing we found out from our friend with the Eagles here in a second. Hit the like button, guys. I appreciate it. What's my plan? That's fucking irrelevant to you. Goedert is an easy one, Sills. He's injury prone. Okay? So you think Harrison Bryant's a better option? Do you? Do you think that's a better option? Harrison Bryant's a better option. Harrison Bryant, Calcaterra. Get this. RC3 thinks that that's an upgrade. That Harrison Bryant, who's a nobody, and Calcaterra are an upgrade to Goddard. Okay, that's such dumbness. I can't debate stuff. I can't debate ignorance. My plan is to dump unnecessary salaries and try to get younger and healthier. So you're looking for the future then, 2026 and 27 then. Is that what you're saying, Pat? Well, what about this year? Who the fuck is this? They're not better players, but you're not thinking I'm not thinking of Cap. So let me ask this right. Oh, I'm thinking of Cap, all right. You let go of a 27-year-old defensive end. You let go of a 28-year-old edge rusher. And now you let the best tight end, one of the top 5 tight ends in the NFL, go, and you think you're upgrading. Just ignorant comments. Just off the charts. Blowing yourselves. You're not that good right now. I mean, there's still a ton of work to do. And that's why you'll remain 35th in passing. Yeah. So wait a minute. Your passing game sucked last year, and it was 30th or 29th. So now you're going to take the guy who led. And so wait a minute. Let me get this right here. Let's do this, and let's play this out here. You're getting rid of the top pass catcher in this past postseason for the Eagles, right? You're getting rid of one of the most productive linebackers that you had in the postseason outside of Bond and Oren Burks with 48 tackles. You're getting rid of a guy who had 4 sacks in the postseason for you and was graded the second best interior pressure tackle in Milton Williams. You're getting rid of Josh Sweat, who was the best defensive player on the field in the Super Bowl and was, in fact, an impact player during the playoffs, and you're okay. You're getting rid of all those guys, and you think you're good. And you lost your play caller. In the words of Kanye, you don't have the answer, Sills. Neither do they. I'm not asking an answer, dude. Hey, a la baladouche. I'm not asking for answers. I'm asking the questions. This is why we're big Sills and you ain't. We're asking the questions. You answered the questions. This is like Judge Judy. Hey, brother, me too. We're good. See, hey, my friend, you get it. We're good. Okay? Get this. This fucking douchebag thinks because I ask questions, I'm complaining. What's your fucking plan at corner? Sileo's complaining. What's your plan at tight end? Sileo's complaining. What a dummy. Listen how that sounded just now for a second. Sileo's always complaining to stir shit up. I'm asking a question. What's your plan at corner? Sileo stirring shit up. What's your plan at tight end? Sileo stirring shit up. Why? Because I ask a question that your media people won't ask? Take the skirt off, Sammy boy. I'm going to start calling you Samantha. It's Holy Week, Sills. But Donovan, hey, don't do that to me. Come on, man. Come on, man. Look at this guy. This guy had 17 L's in a row. What's your solution? Are you asking for my opinion, Marquise Dunkoff? Are you, Marquise, asking Big Sills his opinion on what would you do? Oh, I love your bitch ass, Sills. That's a great take, too. Taking the day so far. Sills asks, what's the weather stir? I'm not stirring shit up. I'm asking a question. Oh, you want me to stir something up? Xander better get his big boy pants on at 3:30. Because John McMullen this morning, when Xander kind of tiptoed around that question on Chase Daniels, was actually John who brought it up. And he goes, yeah, you know, if you were starting a franchise, John goes, yeah, Jalen Hurts, he'd be bottom 10. I was like, wait, hang on. What? Bottom 10? If you were starting a franchise and you were starting a brand new franchise, Jalen would be 10th. Holy, I mean, at least I had him 5th. I started him at 8th, and I said, is there really 5 more or 2 other quarterbacks in the NFL you'd start your team over? That'd be no. I'd be bottom 10. It's like, whoa. I told you, ask him the question. He told you the truth. Wouldn't start your fucking team with that guy. Nobody in their right mind would. Nobody in their right mind would. I think hey, he's got quite a resume. He sure does. I'm starting a football team. He ain't it. I put him on Carolina. They win 5 games. I put Joe Burrow on Carolina. They win 9 games. Dude, Joe Burrow had the 28th ranked defense and still won 9 games with it. Those guys do more with less. I want a quarterback who could do more with less. Because why do you want a quarterback that does more with less? Because free agency, losing players every year. There's massive turnover every year. O-linemen, tight ends, wide receivers, defensive players. You got to have a guy who can carry the mail when you lose pieces. What's the one thing the Eagles made sure? They went to the least position that Jalen Hurts doesn't utilize the most, tight end. Some of you go like this, third wide out. I don't even know why they have that in the offense. They should run a fullback. Maybe that's why Van Helsing is now listed as a fullback, Johnny Mac's favorite player. Maybe that's why they got him there. Because they're going to why are they running a 3 wideout set? They don't use it. The tight end they don't throw across the middle of the field. They run the ball and throw to the numbers. It's as simple as it gets. That's why you're 30th. Hey, Sills, we won a Super Bowl. I get it. Why would you change? Why would you change? You wouldn't change. Dump the fucking tight end. Put a blocking guy in there. Guess what hey, let me ask you something here. This is fabulous. Why do you think they want a blocking tight end? That ain't helping Hurts. That's helping Barkley. They're downsizing in salary to get a blocking tight end for Barkley because they're going to run the ball. You're not looking for a pass-catching guy. That's why the guy goes like this the other day, Nick Sirianni. You don't have to have an all-in-one. Yeah, you know why? They're going to bring Cal Kateri in on 3rd down, and they're going to put your boy, Ulysses S. Grant Bryant, in there at tight end, and he's going to be a run blocker on 1st and 2nd down. How are you not seeing this? Oh, I know. Harrison Bryant's going to turn out to be the next Antonio Gates. Yeah, all right. Because you have such a prolific passer. Hey, Listen, they don't need a tight end in Philly. That's what they're telling you. By getting rid of by getting rid of Goddard, they don't need a tight end. Even though the guy had the most catches of anybody in the playoffs for the Eagles, they're dumping him. How you doing? We don't need a star tight end. That's what you're saying. We don't. Okay? Just so we're clear, you're downsizing. You're focusing on other areas of the team. I agree. Tight end position's a joke. You know what it is? The tight end position in Philadelphia is an added luxury that they're going to take away from Hurts. That's okay. They do that everywhere else around the league to the top quarterbacks. And what they're going to do is they're going to enhance the run game more. Now, I think losing Becton, that kind of scratches your head a little bit. But hey. Oh. Our friends with the New York Giants are telling us right now. And Dabo Swinney, the head football coach of the Clemson Tigers, was at a luncheon with Kirby Smart. And Kirby Smart told Dabo, Fangio loves Malachi Starks. He's in Howie's office, politicianing every day for him. That's who he wants. And that's why you're seeing a shift in that conversation now. Vic Fangio wants Malachi Starks. Mark it down, April 17th. This is the fact. Fangio wants Malachi Starks. What's the two areas of football that he's synonymous with? Too high safety, linebacker play. You sign the linebacker, go get the safety. He won a Super Bowl without prolific edge rushers. He's not concerned with the edge. He wants a good player. Get him in a second. These guys are all the same. You get a bona fide safety, too high safety, playing next to Reed. You got Cooper in the slot. You got two ball hawks in the zone in the middle of the field. How's that not make sense? You actually probably upgrade your team there. Upgrading your football team, folks, from the Super Bowl and from last year is not at edge. You didn't need one. Why are you going there? You're acting like you had a top. Xander's telling me all the time, Milton and Josh, they're replaceable. Then why are you going after a position that you don't need to really replace? What are you asking for then? The two positions that you have, guys who are impact players, Gardner Johnson had 12 turnovers. Some of you will go, you're making it sound, well, this guy got beat more than any other safety. Yeah, well, look at his other grades that he had. And by the way, in a too high safety, high zone, the two most attacked players in that defensive scheme aren't the corners. They're the safeties in the middle of the field. Why? Because they're the last defense. You're going to have more volume there. Get this. This guy here, man, if you want to see an L in takes, all you got to do is just keep putting these guys out. You talk about L's. This guy lives in fucking fantasy Monopoly land. Seriously, dude. Let me hook you up here. Monopoly's not real. Okay? Hey, the Tooth Fairy's not real. The Tooth Fairy's not a real guy. If you put probably you $1 under your pillow, you're not getting $5. That ain't working. Three days ago, This guy missed it. This guy here, Samantha missed it again. You have the guys up front. You have them. They're in the middle of the field. You just got through telling me the edge rushers are replaceable. Pick one, Samantha. Danny, so why he falls to 30T, I'd be surprised if he makes it to 20. I agree. Get this. You want to bet one thing, Drew? You want to bet Malachi Starks gets drafted ahead of all, like, get this. Let me ask you this. When you put on a tape, I can't wait to have Xander this at 3:30. By the way, Brent Musburger, who just won the Pete Rozelle Radio and TV Award, puts him in the Hall of Fame. One of the greatest broadcasters of all time will join us at 5:30. I'm hoping Mike Golick will join us today as well. Hit that like button. Okay? Appreciate it, man. I will make this point to you. Okay? Malachi Starks, does he make it past 20? I don't know. I don't know. He's the first. Get this. Okay, so like when you put tape on and you look at that kid, what's his name? Shamir Stewart? You're solely drafted. Get this. I'm going to use a Xander line on you. I heard John say this. He's by far got a higher ceiling. Really? When you put his tape on, I see nothing. I see no tape. I see him in a gym and at the combines doing really well. That's not a football field. That's not where you play football. On a gym and in the combines. That's all he has. Still, his measurables are incredible. That's how you miss on players. Because he's not 6'6". Hey, I don't know how people look at Aaron Donald. How we would never have drafted Aaron Donald then. Aaron Donald, hey, let me ask you this. Aaron Donald coming out of Pitt, would you have drafted him in the first round at 6 foot 270 to play defensive tackle for you? Would you? 6 foot 275. Get this. This is, once again, this is a stupid take. You don't have a player on your football team in your defense 6 foot. Turn on the tape. Okay. Wait a minute. Turn on the tape. I don't see anything with Shamir Stewart. I turn on the tape of Malachi Starks. I see plays all over the field. So what are you telling me then? What's the high ceiling? That he might be a player? Hey, let me tell you this. This is what you had a problem with Jordan Davis. He looked good in the gym, and he looked good at the combines. You turn his tape on, he kind of shows up. I mean, dude, game tape matters more than combine tape. And how high or how tall or how much you weigh. Dude, that is so reporter thinking. That's not a John McMullen thing. That's everybody. Good grief. Warren Sapp was 6'1", 280. Smoked some weed. I'd rather have the 6'5", 280 guy. Not me. I'd rather have the guys around the ball all the time making football plays. I'm looking for people that make, you know, the number one thing that Jimmy Johnson looked for with players? Are you around the ball making plays? Are you productive? Coach doesn't give a shit how many reps you have and what your 40-yard dash is. That's why he'll go for a guy like Russell Maryland, who was recruited by one school. He'll turn around and get Cortez Kennedy, who was recruited by everybody. He looks at everybody but doesn't sign everybody. I mean, because the guy looks the part, that doesn't mean he can play the part. I mean, got you, Samuel. I appreciate that. I got you, brother. Right? By the way, just for the record here, and how you, when the way you, some of you look at players and the way I look at players, having played, way different. Like this Walter Nolan guy. If Walter Nolan's at 32, I heard the guys this morning. By the way, I love the content. Helps me a lot. And by the way, my opinion, unlike others, is not set in cement. Okay? It's not set in cement. John says he would take Walter Nolan at 32, and he wouldn't take Malachi Starks. Here's what my takeaway was. That I was like, why didn't Walter Nolan fall if he was so explosive? The next Jalen Carter, or characteristics like him. Jalen Carter didn't fall. He was 9th. The same spot Jerome Brown went. And the only reason he may have fell 3 spots was because there were 2 quarterbacks and maybe because of shit in Georgia. He didn't fall that much. Great players in today's draft, you have to almost kill somebody not to get drafted. Sills, most TD throws for 20. Yeah, whatever. That's why you're 30th. Sure, he's great. Yeah. Congratulations. I didn't say that I would take him in the bottom 10 of the league quarterbacks. John did. You got the wrong guy, kid. You need to take that up in the morning show. Send that super to them, but I appreciate it. Yeah. Do you think it should cost more to move up to 33, move up from 33 to 32 than 32 to 31, simply because of the 5th-year option? That's a great take, and yes. The 5th-year option is more expensive because of that 5th year. You move to 33, that's a whole different ballgame because you don't have that 3rd-year option or 5th-year option. And the 5th-year option, absolutely. If he becomes a first-tier guy, Bald Eagle, you're talking about paying a guy $18 million in that 5th year. You know, I mean, there's 3 tiers. Guy makes a Pro Bowl, guy's a starter, very productive. Then there's Jordan Davis is in the 3rd tier on 5th-year options, falling in between like $11.2 million. If he was a Pro Bowler, he'd be up near $15 million, $15 to $18 million on that 5th-year option. There's 3 tiers to that. So, yes, the 5th-year option, plus how he's brilliant. He's been using that 5th-year option to manipulate contracts with that. Guys, hit the like button. Appreciate it. Again, Walter Nolan falls to 32. My question would be, Malachi Starks is there. The only reason Malachi Starks is there is why? Because he's a safety. The reason that Walter Nolan's there is because he dropped because of what? Jackson Dart? That's not a good enough reason for me. Are you trying to tell me Jackson Dart has a higher grade than Walter Nolan? I don't want Walter Nolan. No, wait, Sills. There's more of a need at quarterback. Oh, I see. Well, shit. You're confusing me now on how you select picks. How he said it the other day. Value the pick, matching the talent. Does Walter Nolan, does he match the 32nd pick in the draft with his talent? Probably. 25? I don't think he's explosive. We'll see. I told Clint Hurt this. The 2 Michigan guys, Oregon dude, probably your best DTs. Let me say this to you. If this was a draft of a couple years ago where some of those really good defensive tackles went, Half this draft will be drafted in the second and third round. Here, let me do this. The year after COVID, when all those O-linemen came out, half that draft that you'll see next Thursday would be in the second, third, and fourth rounds. You tell me. You know why they're valuable right now? Because it's a weak draft. You're evaluating players for the weakness of the draft and not the context of the production and the pick, meaning the pick is more valuable than the production and the value of the player. How are you not seeing that? Everyone's telling you this draft is mediocre. There's good players. There's not special players. Okay, what does that mean? I'm still going to take a guy in the 10th pick with a guy who's not special. And I'm going to, dude, that's me. I'm moving down in this draft all over the board. I could get the same guy at 20. This is what general managers, this is what Jimmy Johnson told me. If you've got 3 players graded at 91, and they're the same guy at 32, let's say one's a DT, one's an edge, one's a safety. Got the same grade. You got a need. Edge, safety. Really, the other need on this football team is corner. I'm kind of almost changing my position now. The way the Eagles have been acting, it's edge, safety, corner with all the visits. It's not tight end. They're going by committee. They may draft a tight end, but they're going to do that in the 4th round. They're drafting a tight end and they're earmarking, mark my words, they draft a tight end in the 3rd round. 3rd round or 4th round. 4th round. They're looking at, look at what they've done. Why don't you get this? This is not opinion. This is their actions. How many edge rushers have they signed? How many edge? Here, let me go over here. Let's go over to this. How many edge rushers have the Eagles signed in free agency so far? Let's take a look at that. Okay. Aziz? Uche? Mathis? Who else? Brought Patrick Johnson back? Sound right? Okay. Sounds right? Okay. How many corners have they signed? Let's see. Dory Jackson? Do we count Fields? Do we count him? Okay. So, you signed 2 corners. You signed 4 edge rushers. How many edge rushing visits have you brought in? Was it 5? And you brought 5 corners in. Where are you going in the draft? This is their actions. You know, you can make all the assessments you want and all the projections you want of what they'll do down there. But look at their actions. Multiple edge rushers they've brought in to look at. They've signed 4 edge rushers. They've brought in 5 corners, 4 corners to look at and signed 2. What do you think they're doing? This can't be that hard for you to follow. Is it? Here, I'll help you more. I mean, look at what they're doing. They don't believe in their edges. You know, and let me take that back. Nolan and Jalix, they probably think Jalix ain't ready yet. And Nolan needs help. Depth. BG had help, help. Because really, they're not counting on Bryce. This tells me they're not counting on Bryce Huff. I think Bryce Huff's going to be traded on draft night. Okay? All right? I mean, right? Oh, my God. Great take, and you reminded me, Big Pickin'. Every single time every time that Vic Fangio talks about a center fielder in a too high safety, who does he refer to, guys? Who does he refer to? What one player? Senor got it. Hamilton. Senor, correct me if I'm wrong. Special talent. Great player. Best in the league. Isn't that what he said last year when they were preparing and talking about corner safety play? He was talking about Kyle Hamilton. Malachi Starks has all the intangibles that look like Kyle Hamilton in college. By the way, I want to give you a little bit. When a draft expert, and I happen to be a guy who likes it, I like him relative, and he would be a good third or fourth round guy. You're talking about how they looked in college, not their pro career. How could you make an assessment on a kid's pro career? Like when, what's his name? Cosell talks about Walter Nolan. He looks like, to him, Jalen Carter. He's referring to Jalen Carter at Georgia, not Eagles. You're missing it. That's why football fans that are pro football fans think you're comparing him to Philadelphia Eagle Jordan Davis or Jalen Carter. How could you do that? They haven't played in the NFL. When you compare a player that's coming out in the draft, like that player, Malachi Starks reminds me of Kyle Hamilton. Yes, in theory, I'm comparing him to Kyle Hamilton, but Kyle Hamilton at Notre Dame. Not Kyle Hamilton, Baltimore Ravens. How does that make sense? It actually sounds asinine. So just remember, when you hear that and hear people talk like that, they don't finish off how they are looking at that. And that's why some of it is misleading. And that's why a reporter, will say, the guy's full of shit for comparing him to Jalen Carter. No, he's not. He just didn't finish his thought. I'm comparing him to Jalen Carter, Georgia Jalen Carter. That's all I had to go on. That's all you have to go on now. You don't have, dude, the other shit's fantasy. Well, he'll be the next Jalen Carter. No, that's a different conversation. You'll never hear me say that. I want to see it, guy. I think this guy could be the next Kyle Hamilton. No, what I'll say is that guy reminds me of Kyle Hamilton at Notre Dame. There's a difference. Because Malachi Starks had a better career than Kyle Hamilton at Georgia. That doesn't mean he's going to be Kyle Hamilton, Baltimore Raven. Are you following me? I haven't even got off the first page. Hit the like button, guys. Give me a total. Vic likes the guy, and I get it, and I understand why. That's right. Bald Eagle, that fifth-year option, That's the reason. Hit that like total. I appreciate you guys coming aboard. Don't forget, Brett Musburger. He will join us at 5:30, one of the greatest broadcasters of all time. We're going to talk a little Corso here in a second as well. But, yeah. Because I heard that, and I think sometimes what happens with reporters sometimes when they're on shows, this is the flaw that having reporters on talk shows are. They're not good. They'll say, that kid reminds me of Jalen Carter. The average fan's going to sit there and go, you see Jalen Carter and Walter Nolan? Ole Miss, Jalen Carter, Georgia, Jalen Carter, they're pretty productive. Kind of the same numbers. I think he's going to have to climb up there if he wants that player that bad. Guys, do me a favor. Please hit the like. 16 likes. Let's go, man. Come on, guys. Hit that like button. Sills, I'm hearing Bucks want Starks. That makes sense. Kyle. I love this guy, Kyle. Kyle, why would Todd Bowles want Malachi Starks? I could have swore I saw Todd Bowles' defense being played against the Chiefs in that Super Bowl. And those safeties were all over the place. Cooper DeJean, did he not have a pick six? And the second super chat was a separate question. We'll get that back there for you then, man. We'll look it back. I appreciate you guys, man. Did Cooper have a pick six in that game? I thought the safeties in that ball game were great. Thank you, guys. What guy said 16ers. Hunter, not bad. Let's get it up. That's pretty good. So my wife tells me, how you doing, right? So hit that like button, guys. Thank you guys for coming aboard. Wayne, it is 102. Awesome stuff. Thank you, my friend. Vic wants Malachi. I'm off the first page. See, I write shit down like this, open. I'm still on my open. I mean, let me say this to you. Are you guys evaluating the coaching more than you are your roster? Every single time I hear this from Eagle fans. Well, I trust Vic is going to take that garbage pail and turn it into one of the best-looking receptacles you've ever seen. He's going to take that guy, and he's going to be like a wizard. Change that guy from garbage pail to Reggie White. Jeff Stoutland. By the way, these guys all have misses too. Get this. Well, so far, Jeff Stoutland has failed with Tyler Steen, and Vic has failed with Bryce Huff. Two huge equity guys. You wasted a third rounder at $17.5 million. You think those are big whiffs by your legendary coaches? But look what he did with the I'm telling you, there's hit and misses. There's hit and misses. But we're going to take, and by the way, let's think about something. On the defensive side, there was only one non-Philadelphia Eagle on the roster that Vic turned around. And it was because he didn't get opportunity in New Orleans. and that was Vaughn. What other Eagle did they sign as a free agent last year in the offseason on defense that they turned around? Name me one. Oren Burks. Okay. Oren Burks and Vaughn. Who else? What free agent did they sign outside of Burks, who was a backup, and Vaughn that Vic turned around? The rest of those guys were in the building, right? Isaiah Rodgers was signed a year before. Who else? So when they went shopping last year, there were two dudes that Vic got production out of all those defensive players that they signed. Right? Burks and Vaughn. The rest of them were in-house. Gardner Johnson, that's a good one. That's funny because he had been in the building the year previous because he was in Detroit. I don't think he turned him around at all. He came back in and did the same production he had when he was in 22. He didn't turn him around. I'm talking about a garbage pail that Vic Fangio turned around. Gardner Johnson made $8 million. Had 6 picks a year ago. I don't think he had 12 in 2 years. You didn't turn him around. What free agent? See, again, this is why this guy's the king of L's. What free agent did they sign a year ago that wasn't in the building that they turned around on defense outside of Burks and Vaughn? Two. Okay. 2. How many guys have you signed that are not and were not in the building this past year on defense? Let's take a look at this. Who's Dallas Gant? Zeus. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You signed 8 new dudes. Eight new dudes. Last year, only 2. Vaughn and Burks. The rest of those guys were in the building already. Are you following me? Probably not, but hopefully I'm talking slow enough. The difference was you had more to work with a year ago. More talent that the Eagles had drafted. Xander brings it up all the time, how he's drafted great the last couple of years. They haven't coached it great. They brought the coaches in. This year's different. You don't have the depth you had a year ago. Those guys are all now being pushed into starting roles. Right? The job's harder. You're asking more guys to do more that weren't here a year ago. And you're also trying to build depth at the same time. In a year, that's not great in free agency and a draft. I think the circumstances around the Eagles and what they're doing, I think is not lining up. I get they want to save money. I get they want to go into 2026. I get they have a lot of players that they really like, but this was not the year to rip things apart because you're not replacing them with quality. Draft doesn't have high quality in it. Free agency doesn't. I'm not suggesting that there's not going to be a kid from free agency or from the draft that's going to kick it into high gear. But the chances of you having multiple players in down years with the board across remember something? Remember what I told you? See, again, the king of the L's. This is what I told you. You're relying more on the coaching staff than the talent in the building. Right? This guy, RC3, is the king of the L's. This guy gives me more content. Seriously, man. This guy gives me more content than Trump. It's tremendous. King of the L's. The king of the L's. Every time you guys bring up, well, we got better coaching. So you're counting on your coaching more. Okay, good. Get this. Look at him. Well, this guy's not far behind. Seriously, if you ever go to Aqueduct, you ever go like to the pony races, it's got RC3 in the rear, and there's M. Reyes barely in front of him. And the rest of the horses are way the fuck up there, man. These two guys are always the ones pulling on the reins. Whatever we're doing, we need to keep doing it because it wins. So, yeah, okay. Yeah. Now, you're right. Get this. Damn, RC3. Shit. You know what? You know what's great about it? RC3 won't even do this. He won't even do this. He won't go, hey, I'm Reyes. I could just ignore your fucking ass like I do AJ. Wow, that's true. The players we brought in this year are highly thought of prospects, all of them inside of top 50s in their respective draft classes. That's some material to work with. They're all fucking new guys, Bob, that you didn't have bringing in last year. You had two dudes a year ago that panned out with all those multiple moves you made a year ago because you had players on your roster. This year you don't. You brought 9 new guys in, and just because they were evaluated in different places doesn't mean they're good. How about this, Bob? You think Jahan Dotson's good? He was the 17th player taken. When you look, hey, Bob, because he's in Philly, is he the 17th player? Here's Bob's philosophy. Well, they were highly thought of. So Jahan Dotson was the 17th player taken in the NFL draft a few years ago. According to Bob, hey, he's turned it around. Does Jahan Dotson look like the 17th best player in the NFL? I don't think so. Yeah, baby. So did Dallas Goedert. Okay. Let's see this. This makes no sense. Every guy, here, let me see this here. Every guy you had on the defense a year ago. Let me go here. Hold on here. Okay, so Moro Jum was drafted in-house. Davis in-house. Carter in-house. Nolan Smith in-house. Bond, not in-house. Dean in-house. Huff, Aziz, Uche, Mathis, not in-house. Quinyon Mitchell and Adoree Jackson. Adoree Jackson's your starting right corner, not this Keely Ringo guy. And here the battle at strong safety. Lewis Kine and Andre Sam fighting it out with Sidney Brown and Tristan McCullum. That's going to be a battle and a war. Yeah. What a war that is. I think I'm watching the UFL game. Get this. You're talking about the you don't have a Super Bowl defense now. that ended February 10th. Fuck you talking about, kid? That defense is gone. You lit that bitch on fire. Hey, wait a minute. Here's the Eagle number 1 ranked defense. Still have a Super Bowl offense. Yes, you do. Oh, man. So you guys, you guys have the Grand Wizards. I think I could say that on my show. You have Marlon the Magician or Marlon the Wizard, right? We're going to take Ichio Uche Kachu, and I'm really going to put my little stardust on him. Uche Mathis. Is that his name? Uchan? Ho Chi Minh Mathis. He's going to be, watch what Vic does with that guy. Aziz. Hey, I can't wait. So, hey, you guys are buying the coaching more than you are the players on your staff, right? Yeah. So's my dog, Stevie. Pessimistic? What? Pessimistic on who? Guys who were fired in other places? Here. Moro Jomo. I'm not pessimistic on him. Jordan Davis. I'm not pessimistic on a guy who plays 2 downs. I told you who he was since day one. Jalen Carter. I told you who he... Hey, you know what's crazy? I told you who Jordan Davis was since day one. I told you who Jalen Carter was since day one. Nolan Smith. I'm wrong on him. He's showing, but still, I still think he's paper mache. I had no idea who Bond was, nor did the Saints. Dean shows he can play, still not a healthy kid. Huff was a one-dimensional player with the Jets. They put him in a pass rushing role on the other side of Reddick. I like to have seen what that would have looked like. Mitchell coming from the small school. I can't believe how developed he is. He's a great player. Christian McCollum. Vic likes him, I think. Reed's turning into a good player, man. Keeley, whatever. DeJean's my favorite player on the defense, next to Carter. Two really good downs, though. Yeah, that's why they won't give him an extension. Congratulations. Hell of a guy to root for. She says, I might need my bottle of markers for 2025 season. Okay. If you had no idea who Bond is, it scares you how good he can be. No, I want to see him do it again. This guy is the perpetual L winner of my shows over 40 years. Him and Dick Train should do a show together. It would be classic. I would pay super chats to have him and Dick Train and have M. Reyes be the MC of the thing. It would be hilarious. Watching these guys try to break down a fucking football game. You would swear you would piss your pants if you had RC3 and M. Reyes behind the mic. What do you think, RC3? Well, I don't know. I think everybody on the team's fucking great. It's the best football team right now. I don't care what fathead Sileo says. And then you got the other guy, Dick Train, going, Sileo's full of shit and he lies. All I know is that the Eagles are going to repeat undefeated this year. M. Reyes, absolutely. 19 tops 1. 19-1. Absolutely. Holy shit. That'd be one of the greatest shows. And then what you would have to do you'd have to get that numbnuts from Canada to just make sure the algorithm continues. And guess what? You got it going on. That would be a crazy show. Xander could put it right in between Birds 365 and mine, and you could call it the Nimwits. It would be incredible. What a show. I would watch that bitch. The three Nimwits right between Birds 365 and between Big Sills. I would pay money to see that. And then you would have, of course, M. Reyes going, not a goddamn thing we've done on. You notice it's Holy Week. I don't use the Lord's name in vain. Okay? I may swear like McMullen, but I don't use the Lord's name in vain. And M. Reyes would be like, there ain't a goddamn thing on this team that Howard Roseman and Associates have done wrong. Nothing. And then M. Reyes be passing the back and forth. And then RC3 with another legendary loser take. Holy shit, that would make my night, man. The only thing that would make my night better is if they closed the borders to Canada. Holy cow. M. Reyes, you're my boy, man. Brett Musburger will join us at 5:30. I'm sure he's never seen broadcasting like that. How you doing? Yeah, that was your man. Oh my God. Let's see. We actually do need a show. Hey, no, I got the show. All you would do is get the loser takes of the week. Here's the loser take. Here's the show I want to see between us. You got M. Reyes, Dick Train, RC3. Who else? You might as well put that douchebag from Canada in. You put him. What is it? LD? What is? I don't know. And then let me see who else. There's some legendary takes. And then you put those guys on, and M. Reyes, I want M. Reyes to be the MC, though. Okay? So what do you think? LD? Is it LD? I don't know. I don't really pay attention that much. Okay? Dick Train, what do you think? Yeah, of course he is. Hey, get this. Xander just said M. Reyes is undefeated versus Sills 1-0. Yeah, how about that take this morning? I begged you to ask John McMullen where if he would take Jalen Hurts to start a franchise. He goes, no way. Bottom 10. I was like, there ain't 10 quarterbacks I would use to start my goddamn team within the league. John's got him at 10. Holy shit, I at least put him at 5. And Xander then followed up going, I have him in the top 5. Of course he would. I know he would. Is your ass coming back? Hey, wait a minute. Xander, answer it. Leon here. Yeah. Leon, I don't have a good time having a drink with you, bro. Even the legendary RC3. Okay? So now John McMullen is your barometer. No, it's not my barometer. You kidding me? Holy cow. GQ, you're going to revoke your man card. I told you that. Asking personal questions about my feet, my tripod, or my intelligence. Oh, my God, Leon, you're right, man. Okay? Hey, Leon, they tried it. Let me show you how they tried it. Psst, Big Sills. You know, we're thinking of putting a show together. You know, so win the Super Bowl. Super Bowl. By the way, I totally should have did it. I go like this to Joe. Yeah, you know, I got to move some things around. I fucking sit in my room all day. Xander, no, he goes, he ain't. And Xander, I can here's how this played out. Yeah, Sileo. Xander goes, that guy ain't fucking leaving his house. What are you, nuts? No, man. Yeah, Leon, how about this, Leon? We may have to do something in the preseason. How's that? We may really have to have a kickoff show for the preseason. Would that be cool? Seals, clearly you haven't learned your lesson on saying the Eagles can't do. Said Jalen would not win a Super Bowl. Wrong. Giving the Eagles benefit, safe. No. Bro, giving the Eagles the benefit of the doubt? Okay, Anthony, what's their plan at tight end? What's their plan at corner? What's their plan at right guard? And don't answer me with coaching. What's their plan? I'd be curious. By the way, thanks for the super. What's the plan? What's the plan? I'd like to hear this. How you're going to replace those guys. And if you believe you have the guys in the building. Anthony, you don't have to send another super. Okay? Just and I'll put it up here, please. You're awesome. You support me and my show and this network awesomely. Okay? Because I'm asking you a question. The draft. You're replacing a Pro Bowler, Darius Slay. With who in the draft? So you're drafting another corner. So get this. Nico says you're drafting another corner. Where, in the second, third round? Next man up. And Reyes says that Keely Ringo's the answer for Slay. Funny. You've brought 5 different defensive guys in at corner to take a look at corners. And you signed 4. Sounds like you're real sold. That's not their actions. Okay. I also said your boy Hurts would never throw for $4,000 and 30 touchdowns. And that everybody that we brought on the program would take him 10 or more later on building a team around. Hey, I like Jared Goff too. You have a point on those positions, but I trust. See, you're going to bring up Howie, Vic, and Jeff. You're not bringing up the people in the room. You're asking those guys to fix multiple holes with players that a year ago you had on the roster. This year you brought 9 new guys in already. So wait a minute. Anthony, you've signed 9 new guys. Now you're going to draft another set. You're going to bring in 16 new players. Last year you didn't have 16. How about this? How many job openings did you have a year ago? Right guard, Reddick, both linebackers. A corner. What do you have this year? Well, if you guys are drafting a defensive tackle, you think Moro Jomo's shit out of luck. So Moro Jomo's going to be in a – well, here. So let me get this right here. So people want to draft Walter Nolan. Are you looking because you don't trust Moro Jomo? Or is he going to be you're drafting a backup? So Moro Jomo will go back to being the swing. So that's a job opening. If you take a defensive tackle, the other tackle, right end position's taken. That's Carter. Davis has got the middle. Jomo's got Milton Williams' spot. So you don't believe Milton Williams, or you think that Moro Jomo should have competition with a first-round draft choice. Is that right? Okay, so that's a job opening. If you want to draft a DT, Mario Jomo shit out of luck, or he's the backup. You're going to draft a backup at 32 at defensive tackle? Or is he going to start for you? Which is it? That's a job opening. Okay? That's a job opening. I heard John and Xander this morning go, well, if Walter Nolan's there, I'm taking him. Well, Mario Jomo then is going to lose his job. Okay? He's going to go in and those two guys are going to battle for the job. That's called competition. Okay? So there's one. I'm going to leave the linebackers alone because I don't know Dean's health. I think you got to battle at least for Dean's job in September on who plays. I think we got to wait a little longer on seeing what the guy's availability is going to be. Shit, strong side linebackers, clearly a job opening. Strong safety is clearly a job opening. Right cornerback is clearly a job opening. Shit, you got 6 job openings heading into camp. Am I wrong? Is an all rosters week at a few spots? So wait a minute. Let's take a look at that. Last year, Sweat had the job. Davis had the job. Carter had the job. BG had the job. The 2 linebackers were question marks. Gardner Johnson had the job. Slay had the job. Yeah, there was a few. This year you got 6. You have 6 competition heading into camp on defense alone. Now you're going to have tight end and right guard as a competition, correct? So you got 8 job openings out of 22 players on Super Bowl championship team. Hey, competition? There was no competition for those jobs last year. This year, you have a true competition. And how about this? Let's just be fair. I'm being fair here. I don't know if Mario Jomo wins that job, depending who you draft. I have no idea. Nolan Smith, he'll probably be healthy. Dean, is Trotter going to be able to go in there and play? First month of the season, if needed? And can he play the role of Oren Burks? I don't know. That's an assumption. Huff, Aziz, Uche, Uchana. I don't know. Q's got the job. McCullum, Lewis Kine, Andre Sam. Who the fuck is that? Then you got Reed. Reed's got the job. Oh, Sydney. I forgot about the ball hawk. And then Keeley. All by him lonesome. And what's crazy is you bought 5 corners in and 5 edge rushers. I'm just checking. Just checking. Damn. I only got off the first freaking page today. Look at how much more I got. Look at this. Holy cow. That's what Uche. Hey, man. So you want to see how slick this kid is starting to get, Xander Krause. He thinks he's slick. I'm the man who made slick when it comes to this bitch. So he's just sitting there, and John out of nowhere goes, yeah, I saw that. Chase Daniels, and he starts going like this. Yeah, chase it. And then Xander goes, well, what he said that, that he would pick like 10. Jay Gruden said it yesterday too. John goes, yeah. He goes, yeah. The bottom 10, somewhere down there. And I'm like, bottom 10. Hey, wait a minute. I even modified mine from 8 to 5. And Xander's like, yeah, well, I have here. And then Xander at least had the Sacagawea to do this. Well, mine's more in the top end of the top 5. Of course, they didn't want to ruffle poor John's feathers because, there could be a nuclear meltdown like Chernobyl at any moment. Between him and Jeff Kerr, man, you talk about the earthquake I had the other day? Holy shit, those guys could rock a boat any day. All right. This is going to be fun. Hang on here. By the way, don't forget, Brent Musburger will join us, one of the legendary broadcasters of all time. Lee Corso called it a career today, which was dope. Real quick before I get to Big Z here. Sills, I feel Jordan Davis's job is in question. Anyone could do his job. Johnny Mac would be a solid fill. I think you need a guy who, if you gave Johnny Mac a Tokyo phone book, Matt might help it out a little bit longer. They need to be a little taller, I would imagine. Without further ado, by the way, that show's kicking ass, and I love it, man. And I do. I get a lot of topics from it. Holy cow. I mean, you kidding me? That was a gold mine today. Without further ado, my friend from Birds 365, Big Z, Xander Krause.
What's up, Big Sills? How you doing, brother?
How you, man?
I'm all right, man. I'm living good over here. It's a little warm out today, finally. I'm ready for some consistent warm weather in these parts.
They want me to come to Philly for, like, the preseason or something. I'll be willing to do that.
Yeah, okay. I'm not entertaining those conversations. I'm not entertaining those conversations.
I am telling you, I will.
I'm going to have to go backdoor you. I'll call John Morgan and say, tell Dan you need him in Philly for something, because then maybe he'll actually show up.
Wait a minute. I get it. Your sister calls, hey, Dan, we're going to put an event together for – I need Sileo.
Exactly. Something like that. That would work.
Yeah. And then Dan goes, hey, you need to be in Philly. Okay. All right, man. So let me ask you flat out here. So the tight end position here, what's their plan?
I have no idea what their plan is. Why is there no contingencies brought in ever in the last 2 years?
Why is that a problem to ask that too? When people get upset and they think, okay, look, like you said, I just want to know the plan. Where are they going?
Yeah, they've gotten a plan at every other position. Even if you don't like the plan, they've at least addressed that there is a plan. This time they waited until Temu, and they picked up Harrison Bryant and Kylan Granson, two guys who really haven't done much of anything in their career, signed them for bargain basement deals, and then they're going to let Dallas Goedert walk. Probably a top 6, top 7 tight end in the league. You could argue a top 5, depending on who you talk to. Yeah. And you're going to let him walk for those guys? I mean, I don't know. This seems un-Eagles to me, because even when Howie makes a decision, I'm going to move on from a player, and we might not like all of those decisions, there's at least something there to back up, or at least something there that Howie has done to prepare for that decision. Even Zach Ertz, we got Dallas Goedert. When we had Brent Selleck, we drafted Zach Ertz. We haven't done shit. Like, are you telling me that the plan is Harrison Bryant and Kylan Granson? Maybe those guys pan out. Maybe they have something that they've never showed anywhere else that they have that they can show to Philly. But I don't like the plan. The other thing I'm wondering is tight end the new running back in this offense? Think about it. We wanted to be a passing offense for 8 years. Last year, we became a bona fide running offense. Is tight end the new running back in the offense?
They eliminated it.
Right? I mean, I don't know if you can eliminate it because you need it for the running game.
You're going to add run blockers for Barkley.
Right. I mean, the other thing that I don't love about it is, winning a Super Bowl. There's a lot of great teams every year in the NFL. There's always a lot of teams that are really good or have great years. The Bills were great last year. The Lions were great last year. The Eagles were great. The Chiefs were great. There's always great teams. The Ravens were great. There's always great teams. It's the rare teams. It's the teams that have everything, that have all the little pieces that show up in the untimely or the moments you don't expect. And that's what puts you over the top. And last year, we didn't use Dallas Goedert much. He had 480 yards in the regular season. But when the playoffs came and A.J. Brown was a focus for opposing defensive coordinators and Saquon Barkley didn't have his best game in the Super Bowl, the guy that stepped up in the playoffs for the most part in the passing game was Dallas Goedert. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you he's the most important part. That's not my point. But my point is that Super Bowl teams have special components. And special components are when you lose one, you have another. When one guy goes down, you have another, right? And he was a big part of that last year of when you took away Barkley, when A.J. Brown wasn't getting going, when Devontae Smith didn't get his targets, Dallas Goedert was the guy who held that offense together. You remember the game earlier in the year, he had 175 yards in one game, which shows you how little they really used him in the regular season because I just mentioned he had 480 yards and 175 of them came in one game. So I don't love this approach right now by the Birds. Now, if you load the team with defensive talent, maybe I understand it a little more. But right now, I don't really see what they're trying to do.
Let me ask you here, okay? Is there anybody in the draft you think is better than him? Outside of maybe the kid from Penn State that is as productive as him?
Colston Loveland is a good player. I think he'll be great as a pass catcher, but I don't think he's going to be as versatile as what Goddard is. And this team is obviously a team that needs versatility at tight end. Like you can't – it's almost like Sills. The weird part about Goddard is with the way they changed the offense this year, that style of tight end almost increased in value in Philly because – you could have looked 2 years ago and said, Goddard gets injured a lot. If we're going to have, look for an elite pass catcher, you could go another route. But now that you're a running team, tight ends that can do everything have become so rare in the NFL. Even the best of the best tight ends don't really block well. I mean, you have a couple guys that can do it, but Brock Bowers is okay at it at best. He's a great
Travis
pass
Kelce's
catcher.
never been
Travis Kelce can never do it. So Goddard's become more valuable in the style of player that he is, and they're going to let him go. We'll see what they end up doing here. I am wondering if, maybe it doesn't matter as much as we think, and he's the safety. He is the C.J. Gardner-Johnson of the offense.
Okay, what's the plan at corner?
This is an interesting one because I am now more believing now than ever that Malachi Starks is not only a realistic possibility, but is likely if he slips down past 25. It's likely almost, I think, past 25. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to do that. If Walter falls or another one of those defensive linemen falls, they could still take him. But just based on watching what they're doing and their approach right now to this offseason and the top 30 visits and all the things, safety is clearly something that they want to address. So that tells me, one, that they're not sold on Sidney Brown. Now, if you draft a safety, what does that mean on what you do for any of the other corners? Maybe nothing. Does that mean you keep Cooper in the slot? Does that change what you do with Cooper in the slot? I don't know. Remember, Malachi's a guy that can play some slot. He played some slot at Georgia. I don't think they're going to use him that way, but maybe, look, how many times have I said to you, I don't think safety is a valuable enough position. Well, what about a guy that can play safety and slot? Is that valuable enough? Maybe.
Let me ask you,
maybe that's how they view it, and that might change what happens at corner. But I have a hard time believing they're going into this thinking Keely Ringo is it. I think Keely Ringo is going to be good, but you haven't seen it at all.
Who was the slot player in the 22 season? Marcus Epps?
No. It
Avonte
was
Maddox?
Avonte Maddox.
Okay,
and he was
Avonte
often
Maddox.
injured. Yeah.
So did Cooper DeJean make that position on the defense more valuable because of his play?
Absolutely, I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he elevated that position.
Yep, 100%.
Importance, right?
Yep.
Well, don't you think the safety position, when he had 12 turnovers in the 2 Super Bowl years and the guy you had, he's elevated that position, especially with a coach that has and believes in too high safety?
Yeah,
it's not called too high corner.
You're right. I agree. I thought the thing you said about Vic made a lot of sense. Maybe Vic is thinking, we just achieved number one, and we didn't. Josh Sweat was a good player. Josh Sweat was not a game-changing edge. Nolan Smith was good last year. He wasn't a game-changing edge. Maybe he's thinking with Nolan, with Uche, with Ojulari, with Jalix Hunt, and with a second or third round draft pick, I'll be all right. But I thought your point was really good. Maybe he does want that safety. Maybe they identified that safety is valuable, and we have to see this through, and they just didn't like the guy.
Why? Ask yourself the positions that he feels most comfortable at. The 2 tackles, 2 linebackers. Last year, the 2 safeties. The corner came in and played great. And the slot, you had a slot. Hey, do you agree? Last year, Johnson had 6 turnovers. Cooper played out of his mind, and Reed elevated his game. The 2 linebackers were the best linebacking play in 5 years, maybe since 17. You had your best linebacker play, and your 2 tackles were instrumental in being a run-stopping defensive football team. You won the Super Bowl with marginal pass rushers. Or how about this? I'll take that back. Marginal outputs. I mean, there were not. Dude, 8 sacks in a league that teams throw 50 times a year or 50 times a game. Come on, man. We're not talking about 18 passes that per attempt. We're talking about teams that throw the ball 35 to 45 times a game. How many times did Burrow throw the ball in that Cincinnati game? I mean, again, 8 sacks is I think 8 sacks, if you want to be a decent pass rusher in today's NFL, is the floor, not the ceiling.
Yeah.
That's the floor when you want to get paid big money, Xander, you start getting in at 13, 14, 15 sack range. There's a reason why Hassan Reddick, who was a train wreck last year, he's still signed for $14 million. He was a train wreck. He had 1 sack. Think about this.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude.
1 sack, and the Bucks, who are known for defense, signed a guy for $14 million who was a train wreck a year ago because they see the value in the player.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy talk. Josh Sweat's a good example, bro. Josh Sweat got 20. What did he get? 18 million?
18.5. And what's his name?
And what do you have? 6.5 sacks last year? 8 sacks?
Yeah, he got paid mostly for his production in the postseason, what he did. That's what really shined for them, what they did. Because
same with Milton, by the way. Milton had a productive postseason as well.
He did. What about the comment, man? I mean, Vic wants that because he's looking at the heart of the defense versus the edges of the defense.
Yeah, look, you might be right about that. You might be right about this. This whole thing is, it does make a lot of sense. Like Starks makes sense from the Vic Fangio approach, from what they were able to accomplish last year with edge versus safety play. It maybe makes sense in terms of, I think there is going to be a run on edge rushers because, hell, we just talked about Josh Sweat. He was a good player, not a great player, and he got $18 million. So that tells you what that market is, which means I think a lot of teams early are going to draft edge rushers like crazy. And sitting at 32, Starks could be the guy I could see falling to 25, 26, 27, 28. Maybe that's where Howie pounces. Maybe it happens, man. I could see it.
How about this? So
would you be happy with that pick?
Oh, well, Malachi?
Yeah.
Oh, sensational.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what
I mean. I really like the player. I do really like the player.
I think that's the pick, actually.
He's just a sound football player. He's very fundamental. He's very great instinct, very productive, great instinct, good in coverage, good tackler. Like, he does the things of playing football well, right? It's not like an athletic thing or anything like that.
Profile, big time program, a lot of winning, titles,
a lot of games played for them, dude. And Georgia's a place. We all know Georgia's a place, man, bro. That talent comes and goes, man. You better be on your P's and Q's if you want to play 39 games at Georgia or whatever he played.
That's crazy.
I think it was in the 30s. Yeah, I think it was mid-30s for him. 36.
That's unbelievable. That because you in a program like that, like Bama and Ohio State, you're rotating so many guys to keep so many people happy that to get 40 game starts at Georgia is
39 consecutive games for Georgia.
That's insane. That's great.
Insane.
Bro, come on, man.
Yeah, that's wild, man.
Mike Green versus that. Come on.
Also, I mean, I know you can't legislate injuries and past performance isn't indicative of future results, but 39 straight games in the SEC. Guy's obviously a player that can handle some physicality. Doesn't have injury concerns to this point.
Let me get this right in his 4 years at Georgia. So this guy's been going against Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith in those 40 games. He's been going against all the greatest wide receivers that have come out of that conference, playing in the secondary, those great running backs in that conference, and the quarterbacks and the coaching that are in that. And that program's lost like 6 games in 4 years. Come on, bro. What are we talking about? You're talking to me about a guy from Marshall? Get the fuck. Hey, how many corners have you guys brought in on visits?
I'll tell you in a second. Corners and safeties or just corners?
DBs.
All right, let's go DBs. I'll pull it up for you in a second. Give me the.
And I'll go over here. Let's see here.
All right, here it is.
Go ahead.
All right, so you got. I'll start at the beginning of when we started getting reports. First four we got reported were offensive tackles. Then you had Kentucky cornerback Maxwell Hairston. That's number 1. Then you had Kansas State cornerback JAKIB Parrish, number 2. Slot player, probably second, third round for him. Then you had Ole Miss cornerback Trey Amos. That's 3. He's probably a late round 1 player. Could sneak in a round 1. I don't see it. Probably a round 2 guy. Then you had safety from Penn State, Jalen Reed.
Yeah.
Then you had the USC cornerback, Jalen Smith. Then you had Georgia safety, Malachi Starks. Then you had Navy safety yesterday got reported, Raywan Lane III. And then you had Minnesota cornerback, Justin Wally. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 corners or safeties. If you go straight corner, it's 1, 2, 3, 4.
8 DBs they've brought. They've
4
brought in
and 4 safeties.
to take a look at, and they've signed Dory Jackson,
Yep.
Fields, this guy Andre Sam, this guy Perry Nickerson, and AJ Woods.
Which
So
most of those guys aren't going to be worth a shit.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13 players that are in the secondary that they've signed and that they've brought in to take a look at. What do you think they think of their secondary right now, bringing 13 players in to take a look at and players that they have signed? I mean, how do you think they see their secondary right now?
I don't know. I think, honestly,
Don't you think that's a lot of volume?
I think, what you mean on visits or guys they already have?
Signs? I mean,
they
if they believe they have the guys in the buildings, that's a lot of.
I don't think all those guys you just named. I mean, it sounds like a lot of quantity, but not a lot of quality, and that's why they're still looking at. I mean, Sills, hear me out. I mean, I'm not disputing you. I'm just saying, why would you bring in 8 out of 30 visits on defensive backs if you felt good about your defensive backs? You don't feel good about defensive backs, no matter how many guys you have in that room.
I'm adding the guys that you signed. Those are bodies. Those are
bodies. They're most likely camp bodies.
That's right. Those are the 90 guys you're trying to fill your roster post June 1. I get it.
You need 90. Remember, I think people forget that you need 90.
So
not every name is a guy who will be on the roster.
On the collective bargaining agreement, you have to have 90 post June 1. However, your visits are 9 dudes. 2. I mean, so let me ask you this one too now. How many edge rushers have they brought in?
All right, let's go back to the top. Edge, SMU edge, Elijah Roberts. Boston College edge, Donovan Izaraku. University of Miami, Florida, Miami, Florida edge, Tyler Barron. They have UCLA edge, Oluwafemi Oladejo. He's a good player. Femi, that's a Femi Oladejo.
I like
then you have, defensive tackle, right? Just edges.
Oh, just edge.
Texas A&M edge, Nick Scorton. And then you get, that's all of them.
So you brought in 5 edge rushers and you signed 1, 2, 3. You signed 3 edge rushers and you brought.
I thought we just signed 2. Oh no, you signed Patrick Johnson. That's right. There's 3 edge.
There's 3 edge guys, and there's 8 edge guys that you have either spoken to or signed. How do you think they feel about their edge players now? I think they like 2 of them. I don't know if they like all of them. They don't believe in Huff, because don't you believe that that's a lot of volume too? You're talking 8 different guys that you've either signed or brought in to take a look at.
I think here's what they're banking on.
Especially when you're dismissing tight end and you brought none in. How many offensive linemen that you brought in?
A lot. The first 4 were offensive tackles. You brought Jalen.
Depth and right guard.
Iowa State offensive tackle Jalen Travis, NC State offensive tackle Anthony Belton, Purdue offensive tackle Marcus Mbow, Oregon offensive tackle Josh Connerly. Most of those guys are probably first-round picks. You brought in William and Mary guy. He's a later round pick, but a guy who graded out super high. Interesting player in this draft. Charles Grant. Going to be interesting to see where he could go. You got the Ohio State guard, Donovan Jackson. You got the Georgia guard, Dylan Fairchild. You got West Virginia offensive tackle recently, Wyatt Millum. And that's it on those guys.
So you've brought in guys. You made a trade for a guard. So aren't these the three places you're looking at the draft that they're going to look? They're going to look at secondary, whatever that looks like. They're going to look at edge and O-line.
Edge and O-line. And defensive tackle, too. They brought in defensive tackle. They brought in Shamar Turner from Texas A&M. They brought in TJ Sanders from South Carolina. They brought in Tyleik Williams from Ohio State.
Any linebackers? Any linebackers? Any linebackers?
No linebackers.
No linebackers. No tight ends.
And then 2 running backs. That's it. That's all of them. 8 defensive backs. The edge rushers we talked about. The offensive linemen that we talked about. 2 running backs. And that's it.
Aren't they telegraphing what they're looking at?
Except they 100% are telegraphing what they're looking at. There's without a shadow. That's why my original take of
the way they've drafted with.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to my boy in the chat, Brandon Howard, because me and Brandon used to go back and forth about this probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he was like, "Dude, I love Malachi Starks," and I'm like, "Brandon, I do too, but I don't think the Eagles are going to do that." Now I'm looking at what they've done in their top 30 visits, and I'm like, Brandon's right. I mean, they're looking at safeties. They're looking at corners. We can't rule this out. It'd be naive for me to put my opinion of what I think they're going to do, above what they've actually shown us that they're interested in. It's not that diverse of a top 30, bro. It's not like they got one of every position in there.
No, they don't. And as a matter of fact, the 30. Okay, now, and I wanted to, and I heard John say this today, and John just didn't follow through with when he heard what Greg Cosell said. Greg Cosell compared Walter Nolan to Jalen Carter. Bro, he's not comparing Jalen Carter Eagle. He's comparing Jalen Carter Georgia.
He's also comparing traits. I think sometimes people over, you know what I mean? Like you're over. Yeah.
I mean, nobody's comparing.
I mean, when Jalen Carter came out in the draft and you said you see Jerome Brown, you didn't. He might be as good as Jerome Brown, but you didn't legitimately say that as he's going to be the next Jerome Brown. You said I see traits and things that he does that remind me of Jerome. I
saw Jerome do at Miami, and I saw him do at Georgia. That's why I don't get. You know why I'm pretty good at picking these guys? In the last couple of years, I've been right on with every guy who's gone on to become productive. You know why? I keep the guys in the box in college. I don't project them what they might look like in the NFL because you know what? And by the way, who's the one guy that Vic Fangio constantly refers to when you're talking about great safety play? It's Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah.
And this guy, Malachi Starks, reminds me of, here, folks, Kyle Hamilton, Notre Dame. Not Kyle Hamilton, Ravens. Kyle Hamilton when he was at Notre Dame. That's what I'm talking about when I'm looking at that guy. So, I mean, there's a difference there. All right. Well, let me ask you this now. And before I move on to this question here, I want to get your thoughts on. By the way, please hit the like button. If you were going to start your franchise with a quarterback, he's the first pick. Nobody's on your team. This is an expansion team. This is not a
like John McMullen. You guys are adding so many details to the exercise.
No, that's what Chase did. If you were starting a brand new team, they weren't talking about who's the best quarterback. If you had to pick 5 guys, I disagree with people. I don't think there's 6 quarterbacks in the league that I would start.
That's what I mean. This whole thing is after 6, it's done for me.
It is, right? They're all the same. They're like, couldn't you really go like this? 6 to 12, they're kind of the same dude.
After 6, you start talking about names like Herbert, Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, Trevor Lawrence, Tua, Anthony Richardson, obviously not him, but Purdy, Murray. I'm just talking about like guys that are down list there. Like I'm not doing any of them. This is very easy.
Not even golf.
It's honestly really easy for me, this whole thing.
Yeah, me too.
Mahomes won. Easy. Three champions. Obviously, his roster needed a lot of help the last couple of years. It's not like the guy has been on a stacked squad. Mahomes, the resume speaks for itself. Getting the team over the top speaks for itself. The amount of times he's been there consistently speaks for itself. Mahomes is number one. Number two is Jalen Hurts for me, because I don't see the level of success in anybody else that he's had. And everybody tells me I shouldn't pick him because his roster is so good. And I'm like, well, why hasn't Josh Allen won? Why hasn't Joe Burrow won? Why haven't they haven't won? Because their roster's not good. So if they can't win because their roster's not good
right now.
I know that, but why are
you're assuming he's going to have
no? But you're taking away from Jalen for having a good roster when the other guys can't win without a good roster. The other guys
do more with less,
but they can't win without a good roster.
Wait a minute, Mahomes does.
Mahomes is the one for a reason.
Yeah. Name me one guy on that Buffalo Bills team that could start in Philly. None.
What, on their offense?
Yeah.
But you're missing my point. My point is that if you're going to take away from Josh or you're going to take away from Jalen for having a stacked roster, why are you not taking away from Josh Allen for not winning without a stacked roster? That would insinuate both quarterbacks need to have a good roster to win.
Quarterback can still win with no matter who's on the team.
But he hasn't won.
14 wins.
But what has he won?
Wait a minute. That guy, again, this is building a team, not a team. You're putting winning into it. You're not going to win your first year.
I'm taking
Jalen. You're an expansion team.
I'm taking Jalen because I've seen Jalen go to every level, every program, every place since he hit puberty and has won.
Alabama, Oklahoma, and Philly.
Okay, good. So Jalen's entire career is attributed to all the teams he's had around him. You can take that approach. Again, I'm not going to argue. Putting him at 5 doesn't bother me.
Hey, by the way, did the Bama football team elevate after they put a better quarterback in?
What do you mean elevate? They were in the national championship.
Well, they actually won it with him.
And then they lost the next year without him.
Hold on. Did they not win it with him?
They won it when he started 12 of the 13 games.
Hold on.
13 of the 13 games.
Did Tua win the national title for out? Oh, my God. You're trying to change the
I'm not changing the history. Dan, I went there. I lived that year.
Benched him.
He benched them in the national championship.
No, SEC title game at the half.
No, he did not. He benched him in the natty. Jalen Hurts never came out before that half at natty.
Right. That's right. The following year, he played in the SEC
championship game when Tua got hurt, and he led him back and won the game.
Okay, so you got Hurts too. Who else do you have?
By the way, I want to say I don't think it's crazy for you to say Hurts at 5 at all. My point is, I think it's crazy to say you can't make a case for Hurts at 2. That's what I think is great. How could I not make a case for the guy at 2? He's been the winningest quarterback in the NFL since Patrick Mahomes. You can pick 5. It doesn't bother me. But to say there's no case to make for him at 2 is wild to me. Number 3, this was a tough one for me, 3 versus 4. And I went Joe Burrow over Josh Allen because I think Joe Burrow showed me – I think Joe Burrow is the most talented thrower of the football in the NFL, and I don't think it's relatively close. I have him at number 3.
I think he's better than Mahomes.
I do too. Definitely at throwing the ball. My problem and why I chose him over Allen is who's had the better roster the last 2 years? The Bills or the Chiefs?
There's no Kelsey on that Bills team.
I know, but Kelsey last year, let's be real, was not the same.
There's no Creed Humphrey on that team.
There's no Chris Jones on Buffalo. There's no.
Yeah, but I'm talking offensive guys here.
I know. I'm talking about there is 2 Hall of Famers for Mahomes. All right. Well, you could argue that they're comparable, but the reason I went with Burrow over Allen is I've seen Allen come up short, and I'm not knocking him for it. You're losing to a Hall of Fame player, a coach and quarterback.
And 2 MVP guy.
Not knocking him. But I went with Burrow because when Burrow had a team that was even close to good enough to get there, he did slay that dragon. Which he says, if I get a team that's close with Burrow, I think he'll go further than what Allen will take.
You see that conversation you're having here? The one thing that I will never do is this. When Hurts gets in that game with Mahomes, he's the only quarterback in the league that there's a rivalry. Okay. I mean, he's 2-2. You can make the argument every time he's played him, he's looked better. I mean, so the eyeball test in that game, the game a year ago in KC, when they went to KC and won. I mean, the year before, whatever it was early in the year when they beat him there in Kansas City. I don't know, man. I mean, so who do you got it for?
4, I got Josh Allen, very close to 3. I mean, it was basically a pick 'em for me. I went with Burrow just because he went to the bowl, and I thought, I just think he's so damn good. Josh Allen, very close at 4, unbelievable player. By the way, any of these top 4, I would take and be very happy with any of them. All right, so I'm not trying to criticize any of these players; they're all amazing players. I have Allen 4, 5. I have Lamar, but I think there's a big drop off from 4 to 5, and I'm not saying that as a knock on Lamar. I don't know if Lamar is the type of quarterback that's going to build a championship organization. I think he's the most talented player from an athletic trait. I think he's one of the most unique quarterbacks we've ever seen in the NFL. I think he's arguably one of the top quarterbacks in NFL history. But I think for this exercise, I'm looking for a guy I can build a Super Bowl winner around. And Lamar is 5 for me, and there's a significant gap from 4 to 5. 3 to 4 with Burrow to Allen is right there.
Let me
4
ask.
to 5 for me is a big gap.
Here's when we're talking about this exercise, and I got where Chase Daniels is coming from. I'm looking for a quarterback that is salary cap proof. And what I mean by that is there's so much turnover every year on a roster. The one roster that has not turned over in 3 years has been the Eagles on offense. It's just not turned over. The right guard has only been the one position that's been a turnover. It's either
Outside
been
of right guard and like
it's
Queasy
either been an upgrade from look what you did at running back. You went from Sanders to Swift to Saquon. You upgraded. There's never been on that side of the ball players being lost except, again, for the interchangeable right guard position.
Yeah, and like Quez Watkins, which, let's be real, that's not a consequential player. Yeah.
But these other teams, like, I mean, the Chiefs lose players. The Bills lose players. You know who else has not done that? Has been the Bengals. They did lose Joe Mixon. That was a calculated mistake by them. Well, you know what? Even a year ago, though, Xander, he had 1,100 yards.
Yeah, I like Joe, but it's like
you have to have that.
It's like the Eagles moving on, and maybe this is a little bit too far. Like I think it's maybe like 80% of this is it's like the Eagles moving on from Miles Sanders or DeAndre Swift. Like those guys had great seasons, like you just said. They had 1,200 yards, but the Eagles were looking for the game changer. You know, I never thought Joe Mixon was the game changer for them. He was a good back, but I never thought he was the game changer. Now, what's his name? Sidney Brown's brother, who's over there, Chase Brown, is just not cutting it. I mean, they got to get somebody else. But no, you're right. You're right about that. There's no turnover for the Eagles offense. I agree. I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
But that's because GM is a smart guy. So here's your guys: Mahomes, Hurts, Burrow, Allen, and Lamar. And again, I think you could drop them in a hat, except for
I did 7. I got 2 names left. If you want me to finish.
All right, yeah, let me hear.
I got Jaden Daniels at 6, and I got CJ Stroud at 7.
I don't hate that.
I just like what he showed you in 2 years. This is a young player. I think if you put the right team around him, I think he's got a bright future. So that's why I went with CJ Stroud there over guys like Goff or 30-year-old players where I already feel like Goff is like I actually like Goff. Like I defended Goff a lot last year. I like Goff a lot. But here's my thing with Goff. I think you already kind of, and I hope this is probably a wrong analogy, but like you kind of like blew your load. Like you had this sick team around him and you didn't make it. So it's like, where can you go? Like even with Jalen, if you're going to say to me, well, he had a stacked team. Yeah, and he won. He did it, right? Like he did it. Jared did it. So I'm like, I don't know. With the other guys, I think if I built the beast around him, I could see it. Couple other names. Maybe.
That's a great that last part of your take. Hey, Sills, they did build he has a stacked roster. How many stacked rosters have you ever seen in the NFL and they're not win?
Exactly.
A ton.
It's like it's an old debate in sports. Why don't all-star teams win, right? I mean, it's like you got to have the right guy.
You're right.
You know,
they did, but you know what? They had a stacked team, but you know what? He completed the deal, and he played in the two best games that you could possibly have, the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. So who the other? I mean, so you have Daniels and who's the other guy?
Daniels and Stroud. And then the only other names, and I didn't rank these, so I'm just going to throw out a couple names, not in order or anything. The only other names I think that could reasonably make this list are I think even a Caleb Williams. I just think he's got intangible like traits that you're like, I could build around that. Now you haven't seen a lot, so it's a big projection. You've never seen him realize that upside. So it's a bigger projection on him. A guy like Jordan Love, maybe if you made it perfect around him, I think you see some traits there, some skill set that maybe you like. But after that, I mean, you're really in la land now, bro. I mean, even at Jordan Love, I think I'm in la land. Caleb Williams, I'm in la land a little bit. Here's it. Ready? Eagles fans might not like this one. You could put Dak at 10, probably. Like, I think Dak is one of the few quarterbacks that I know he struggles in playoffs, so this is why I would never pick him.
So does Lamar.
Dak does his anticipatory throws are some of the best in the NFL. Like, he's one of those guys who will throw a receiver open, who will thread the ball in a tight window. He's always been very good at that. So I think that's a trait maybe you would like. But again, we're in no man's land at this point.
See, for me, man, I looked at that list yesterday and I went, it just shows you how the desperate I happen to agree with you. I think the quarterbacks that are going to go in the first round, they're going to be Cam, they're going to be Shador, they're going to be that Paxton Dart kid. I think Jalen Milroe.
Paxton Dart. Jackson.
That Jalen Milroe kid. And that Syracuse kid probably.
McCord.
Either the Syracuse kid or that Louisville guy that they like.
Prep kid, McCord. Yeah.
I mean, there could be 5 guys go in the NFL draft that, guess what? In any other good year, those guys, you heard Jay Gruden. Jay Gruden he's not alone. He thinks Shador Sanders is 3rd-round talent.
I know. Jay was – I didn't – yeah, Jay was –
here's the guy that had to work with RG3, and I don't know. I mean, here again, Burrow – I moved mine around. I moved the 2 and the 3 because of what you said with the winning. I have Burrow 1. I think Burrow's the best. He's the best comp I've seen to Brady in the pocket.
Dude, Burrow is surgical from the pocket.
I mean, you heard Arians what he said. He goes, that guy's the real deal. There's nothing like that in the league. He's so good from the pocket. He sees the entire game. It's just a shit show that he's in Cincinnati, man. I mean, I'd love to have seen a GM like Howie around him and building a team with a decent owner. That'd be something to watch.
One other name, though, that you mentioned yesterday, and this was when I got pissed in the chat.
Was Herbert?
Yeah. I'm like, look, I like the traits, but like, this is also part of why I have Jalen at 2, because 2 of the best games of Jalen Hurts' career came in the Super Bowl. Now, I know that that's not a perfect indicator of how good a player is, but like, I'm not enamored by you having a pretty regular season, and then when push comes to shove and it's actually time to win games to cement your legacy, you throw 4 freaking interceptions. That, to me, is egregious and is enough to wipe you off my list entirely, because I don't want a guy who gets scared when the lights go on. I mean, do you want to run, you practice for the play, and in the practice, the guy's great, but if you get out there and the lights turn on, the guy forgets what to do.
So what you're going to do with Herbert is you're going to hold that game. I'm not saying you're wrong against him, but you're not going to hold a 17 turnover season against Jalen.
Well, Jalen Hurts has accompanying factors that overcome that hurdle. He's won or performed exceptionally well in 2 Super Bowls. I've never seen Herbert perform well when the lights are bright, ever.
The reason why I think Herbert's going to make a turn is because he's got Harbaugh now. He's got.
I'm not saying
if better coaching helps Jalen, why wouldn't it help Herbert?
Yeah, but Herbert right now to this date has never showed me that when the opportunity is in front of him to seize and to elevate and to make the Chargers a name in the NFL, he shrinks. Like, I don't want a shrinking violet. And that's probably a bigger factor for me than a lot of people who are doing this exercise. I value that specifically very high. So you might not, John might not, other people might not.
You were starting an expansion team and you were at the combines and you saw how you and remember, you've got the advantage of hindsight now. Okay.
That's true.
If you're drafting a guy out of college, you're taking Hurts over Herbert. The Eagles didn't even.
Well, I mean, if you're saying remove that what Jalen Hurts has done in his career,
you're taking into account what that guy did
yeah,
in his pro. Okay,
absolutely.
well, I'm talking about starting a football team, drafting a guy. Who would you take?
Jalen Hurts.
Not Jalen Hurts, Eagle. Jalen Hurts, Alabama.
Yeah, but that's not what the exercise is. The exercise is as it stands today.
Okay.
When Chase Daniel ranked him at 10, he didn't say, I would take him at 10 coming out like, if I didn't know what he would do in the pros. He was saying, I'm ranking him at 10 with all the information I have about the player. With all the information I have about the player,
so
you're right. I have had some, the benefit of.
Well, no. I think you're right because I think that's what I heard too. So who has a better arm, Herbert or Hurts?
Herbert.
Who's has a better pocket presence in the pocket?
Herbert.
Okay. Who reads defenses better?
Herbert, because he has to. But Jalen got a lot better at it last year. You could argue it's a push because was he reading defenses when he threw 4 picks in the playoff game? Or what happened?
One game. I mean, the guy
Jalen Hurts. Wait a second. When Steve Spaggs said, I'm taking away your running back, Jalen Hurts dropped dimes. And that's reading a defense.
Who's more accurate?
Push. Jalen's a very accurate thrower. 71% completion percentage last year. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of balls that are off target. Might not have the same volume.
Because he doesn't have a lot of volume.
All right, that's fine. You're asking me accuracy.
Okay. All right. I'm saying the guy throws 650 times compared to a guy who throws 390
well, yeah,
times.
the sample size is bigger, but that's not what
you have more opportunity of failure. But here, I don't mind the top 5. And I took Herbert out of that because I kind of the flopping around in the postseason kind of bugs me too. So I got Burrow, Mahomes. And the only reason I put Lamar in the top 5 is because he has, and when you watch him, you look at him and you're like, that fucking guy's great. Come on, I know.
No, he's a special player, man. Special.
I know. And then I did put Hurts in there. I mean,
I'm surprised you had Lamar ahead of Hurts, not going to lie. Like, Lamar to me is like this transcendent talent.
I think Hurts is smarter than him.
Yeah, I think that's one of your best takes on Jalen is the way he manages a football game. And that's a big part of being a quarterback. It's not about being the flashiest person on the team. It's not. You're the leader of the team. You conduct the way the game goes. If you don't have a handle on that or a grip on it, I think that's a big deduction for you. The other thing that's a big deduction is, if you like you just went through this exercise with Herbert. Yeah, he's got more talent. But when I needed that talent and when the lights turned on and it was like, okay, you check this box, you check this box.
It's the Rodgers-Brady conversation.
Now I'm trotting you out. Now I need you to actually do it. Like Jalen does better in those moments than what people think he can do, while Herbert does worse than what people think he can do. I want the dude who rises up. I want the dude who doesn't blink when you can't afford for him to blink.
Do you think at all, and you exclude this in your conversation here with this, do you think AJ and Devontae help make that a better and easier when it comes to accuracy when you can't name one wide receiver on the Los Angeles Chargers team?
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt they help. But here's what I have a hard time doing. I have a hard time taking that away from Jalen. Like, I will acknowledge that it matters, and they obviously help. But I'm not going to sit here and say, well, I'm not going to take Jalen because he has good talent. It's like, why am I using that against him?
So you're assuming, though, that he would be as accurate with a lesser guy running routes. Now, I'm not saying I'm talking out loud here.
I'm more assuming that the intangibles will make up if he gets to that moment. Because if he didn't have pass catchers, all right, maybe the accuracy would wane. But if I needed that dude in a big game, I've seen enough to know he's going to rise up. I've seen enough.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Real. Jahan Dotson was involved in the Super Bowl. Like I think Jalen Hurts proved, especially in those last 2 games last year, it doesn't matter what you do. When it's a big game, I will dissect. I will beat you the way we need to beat you. If it's Saquon, it's Saquon. If it's not, it's not. and I will still get the job done. And he proved that not in one Super Bowl, Sills, but in 2 Super Bowls.
My last question for you. What is more likely Howie Roseman to do draft night? Trade up, trade down, pick at 32, trade the pick for an already established player.
I think that's unlikely because I do think they want a rookie contract. All right. So I'm going to rule that out. I think trading up is more likely than most people are giving credence to. Like you hear a guy like John, who's obviously plugged in with the organization, and he says, this is a trade down draft. Everybody wants to trade down, look for the Eagles to trade down.
I agree with that.
Where I agree too. But where I do see the Eagles, the chance of them jumping up is, dude, Malachi, perfect example. Walter Nolan, perfect example. James Spears. Now, it all depends on their player evaluation, by the way. Like, if they don't like Malachi or if they don't like a guy, they're obviously not going to jump up for him. But with the way the board could fall, with the way other teams might be trying to move out, I could see Howie saying, while everybody's zigging and trying to get out, I'm going to zag and go get the guy I like. I could see that. But I think the most likely is trade out, grab another pick, either this year or next year. Maybe add a move it. Then you have 2 second-round picks. I think that's the most likely is trade out. I'd like to see him trade up, though. My preference would be trade up, go get your guy.
Let me sneak one more in. I got it down here. Okay, so the Jordan Davis 50-year option is kind of flying under the radar here for this team.
It is. I agree.
And there's no talk about it. There's more talk of Goddard. Okay, I mean, hey, by the way, did you like that pick? That what I threw out there, sending Dallas Goedert, that was the conversation. Dallas Goedert to the Giants.
Yeah, I would do that.
The Giants called him, but the Giants wanted the Eagles to drop a 5th in. Now, I couldn't find out if it was this year or next year 5th, but they wanted to send Kayvon Thibodeau to the Eagles for Dallas Goedert and the Eagles giving a 5th for Kayvon Thibodeau, who was a first rounder 2 years ago. I don't think the player's awful.
No, he's not awful, but doesn't this Sills maybe show you there's a silver lining here, or at least something that you can take from this about the Eagles' philosophy? Because I think anybody would say take that trade. Like, even if you don't think Kayvon's that great, it's like, if I'm going to lose Goddard anyway, I'll give up a 5th, one that you have
good.
4
I
of,
don't think he's
to add an edge rusher to a room that we have a lot of questions. I think anybody logically would take that trade. The Eagles aren't doing it. Why? They don't want to pay that player. Is it about the player or is it about the money? I don't know. And that's where I keep going back to.
Or position.
This team moved on from Gardner Johnson. This team let Milton and Sweat walk. This team is cost cutting. Now, somebody was mad at me yesterday. Oh, why are you playing the cap? You're not Howie. I know I'm not Howie. I'm not trying to be Howie, dumbass. I'm just trying to make an educated take on what this team might do. They're cutting cap everywhere. Are they really going to trade Goddard, who's another cap casualty, and trade for a player and then pay him buku bucks before they pay Carter, before they pay Nolan, before they pay Cooper, Quinion, or any of those guys? I don't see it for that reason, and I think that's probably why, if this trade is real or was out there, why they probably said no. I think it's about the player. Now, it also does come down to
Boomer Esiason confirmed it, that the Giants had contacted about the availability.
Yeah, I knew they contacted about Goddard. I just don't know about the Thibodeau part.
But Boomer was the one who told me about the particulars.
Okay, the Thibodeau part. All right, yeah, because that's the thing I don't know.
By the way, Boomer Esiason is the morning show host at WFAN in New York.
Yeah, he's a very plugged-in guy. We've had him on here many times. I mean, you've gotten him on. Credit to you. Yep. So yeah, he's a very plugged-in guy. Obviously, I'm not disputing it. I'm just saying, it all comes down, I guess, to player evaluation. But I've yet to see a player that the Eagles have gone over. Well, obviously, none of us have seen it, that they've gone over the top for this year. The only thing we have seen, Sills, is cost cutting. That's it.
That's right.
That's it. We've seen C.J. Gardner-Johnson go.
We're downgrading.
Dallas Goedert go. Milton went. C.J. All these guys.
It's downgrading.
So if they're not going to make the move for Thibodeau, maybe they don't like the player. That could be it too. But the other part of it is maybe simple is take the most obvious explanation. It's that they don't want to pay a guy right now. They want a rookie.
Well, here you got a lot. You got 3 more years with him on a rookie
Dude,
deal.
Thibodeau? I think he's due for a contract next year.
I think he's only been there 2. Right? Hasn't he only been? I
Well,
thought
so he's going to be.
I thought he was going into his 3rd year.
Well, if you're maybe that changes a little bit. If you don't have to give him a bag of money, I don't see why you would say
He
no
was
to that.
drafted 2 years ago. I don't think he was drafted 3 years ago.
No, he's played 3 years now. 22,
Okay,
23, 24 season.
Then he is eligible.
Yeah.
But
So he's in Jordan Davis range. He's going to be pick up the 5th-year option or give him a contract. Or let the deal expire after this year. So he's a 1-year rental if you don't like him. I kind of still like it as a 1-year rental. I'm not going to lie to you.
Me too.
I mean, if we're getting rid of Goddard and we need edge help.
My only problem would be is that I'm sending a really good player to the Giants that makes them better, and it's in my division, and I got to see Zach Ertz and that guy twice a year.
Yeah, but here's the problem. You're not worried about the Giants, are you?
No.
Like, that's the thing. Like, I think you could send Goddard and
if
say
they had a decent quarterback. How about this? You put Dallas Goedert in that building with Malik Neighbors, and you got Dallas Goedert, and you sign Aaron Rodgers. How you feeling
What's
about
our offensive line look like?
What?
What's our offensive line look like?
The left tackle is one of the best in the league.
The Thomas guy. He's good.
Stink.
Outside of that, they stink. Can't block a freaking traffic cone. So
but they would be better if you put Aaron Rodgers in there with Dallas Goedert and Malik Neighbors.
They would be better, but Sills, you know this, man. You ain't.
I'm not saying Eagle, man. I'm not saying like that. I'm talking about.
No, they would be better. Yeah, you'd probably add 2 wins to 2-3 wins, maybe. Maybe
because again, okay. So me, dude, I just still see picking Malik or trading out because I'll say it again. I heard John say this about the guy. What was his name? No, Walter Nolan. So if Walter Nolan, I'll ask you. I want to. If Walter Nolan's at 32 and Malachi Starks is at 32, isn't your first inclination to ask the question, why is Walter Nolan at 32?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because he's a productive player, obviously has a high talent, high motor, checks out on basically everything. So if he drops now I have heard people say about character concerns on him. I don't know what they are.
That's low-hanging fruit stuff.
It is. Again, I'm just saying would that be the only reason? I mean, he would fall. Now, here's the thing. I'm an Eagles fan, and I'm fully acknowledging my Eagles glasses go on when these conversations come up because I've seen many instances now with Big Dom in the building where I hear from inside sources, I hear from people like John, I hear from people, like D Gunn in the past who talk to people in the organization, and Big Dom does all the homework on this stuff. If Big Dom gives the clearance, the Eagles feel good about drafting him. So
just how people have to know how this works. The FBI, former FBI agents are all part of NFL security. Every NFL team has a guy like Big Dom. With the NFL security guys, get this, and this is so you know, Xander. Do you know how Aaron Donald found out that he was being stalked by a stalker who was sending him? NFL security called him and told him that there were stalkers that were trying to get to him and his family and sending threatening letters.
Yeah.
He had no idea it was going on. So NFL security watches almost all of us still with the NFL deal. Yeah. I will get a note from a guy on Twitter from the league office. Hey, Dan, you might want to take a look at this here. Somebody sends threatening message. I get that from the
I believe it. Yeah, I believe it.
So again, that comes with just something that they've always done forever. So you're right.
Anywhere there's liability in the NFL, it makes sense. Remember, you guys are public figures because of the NFL. So they're protecting that. Yep. That's
right. And the Players Association, that's part of the collective bargaining agreement that stays intact. On any guy who's ever really played, there's I've gotten them where people have threatened me and my family, this and that's why we have a gated house where I have to hide my truck sometimes. Anyway, so he will do that. But for me, if I'm sitting at 32 and I heard John say this, so if both guys were rated at 91 and you had a 91 rating on them, and Xander, that means this. So you think you're bringing him in to back up Moro Jomo, or you bring him in to compete with Moro Jomo on that left end spot?
I mean, Moro, I like you, but you're a 7th round pick. You're probably going to want a big contract next year. Like, go ahead and sit down, buddy.
Okay, so in your opinion,
same role as he was last year. You're a rotational piece. You're going to battle it out in camp, but I'm not going to like not draft Walter Nolan because we have Morrow Jones.
Walter Nolan's not beating out Milton Williams. So my point is that you're creating a competition by drafting that guy.
You mean Morrow or Jomo, or you mean like if Milton was still here, he wouldn't beat him out?
He's not beating Milton Williams
Okay,
out.
yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. But
He's
he'll battle it out with Morrow, and I'm not in love with you, Morrow. Let's be real. You're going to want a contract soon. Even if you produce, the Eagles aren't going to pay you a contract because their money's tied up in a bunch of other defensive tackles. So your time here is already coming to an end soon. Let's get a guy in the room that we have a future with.
But here's where I'm going with this. So then that means if you're drafting a defensive tackle, you're not sold at that position either, because that guy's being brought in to be a starter, not a rotation guy at 32.
Yeah, I also think there is like an element.
But if you draft Malachi, he's starting for you, dude.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. I think Walter would too, to be honest with you. But I see what you're saying. I think the lines, though, are a little different. Like, I think the Eagles view the lines as a little bit different. That's why in years past, you have seen the Eagles draft linemen at times, even as early as Cam Jurgens. If you remember that, there was a little bit of backlash from the fan base of, why are you drafting a center? We have Jason Kelce right now. We have other needs. The Eagles kind of brushed that a little bit to the side with lines. All right. They want players. They want quality players and a lot of them on both lines. That's been their philosophy. That's one of the philosophies of why we're a good organization year in and year out. I would not be mad if they added a body there, even if it wasn't a bona fide starter or like that. I think you got to view them a little differently because of how important the trenches are. But you're not wrong. If you draft Malachi Starks, he's like Quinion last year. He's your starter week 1. If you draft Nolan, it does look different.
Doesn't it look to you that for Vic Fangio, Vic thinks he can replace the line guys and edge guys better than he can the corners and safety? Because look at the volume of picks he's bringing in.
Yeah.
I mean, he's looking for somebody at the edge. But last year, you guys, as I mentioned, you weren't special at edge. You were special. You were special up the middle, right? Linebacker was special. Carter was special. You had turnovers in the safety position. You were special. And by the way, when you played 2 wide safety corners, I mean, those guys were really great cover corners in a zone. They were great. But who made the biggest impact on your secondary a year ago? Who was your rookie? Cooper DeJean, not Quinton Mitchell. You know why? Because Q's in the middle of the field. He's around the action. He's
Coop's
the
in
one.
the middle of the field. Yeah.
He's the one teacup. Yeah, Cooper's the one in the middle of the field. Teacup and Henry. He's the one getting the pick 6 in the Super Bowl. He's the one that's showing up in the middle of the field covering tight ends. Just saying, dude. The guy that Cooper DeJean has elevated that slot spot more than what Avonte Maddox did.
And that's why Vic doesn't want to move him out, Sills.
Hey, how about this? Somebody brought a great point up. You know what? He may not get a $20 million or $30 million bill playing. Would the Eagles ever entertain, because he had such a massive impact on the team, changing the game and making that a high paid position and reward him, because they rewarded Barkley. They've rewarded people. They're going to reward Carter.
Yeah.
Hey, okay. Possible. He's not a corner. How about you give him $25 million to play that nickel slot, and you make him happy? Money makes everyone happy.
Yeah. I wish the NFL was more like that. Like where you play players.
They don't do that with tight ends. You're right.
Just like pay a player based on their value, not like their position. Like this Will Fries, you just got $88 million because he's a guard. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, who is more valuable? And even like Saquon, I know he just got a big contract and he's making money, but like, I love Devontae, but who is more valuable to the Eagles, Devontae or Saquon Barkley? Right? Like, and Saquon still with the highest paid running back in the NFL with another new deal doesn't even come close to making the same.
That's how they control the players, though.
Yeah, it is because they attach a group, a position group, and then they put like a percentage of like. I think a lot of people don't understand that's a big way the cap works, right? Like quarterbacks will make 13% or whatever the number will be.
There's
like
no $20 million tight end.
Right. And that's because of the way that they have it structured in percentage wise on who they want to pay where to make up the salary cap. So
like the linebackers, you're going to make 20 most. You're not going to make 35. You're not making that. O-linemen, left tackles are going to make. Look at a center position. The center position's a $13, $14, $15 million position. It's not a $25, $30 million. Why? Because they categorize you And that's how they keep you controlled. Xander, do we have any supers?
Let me check them out. Abe checks in. What up, Abe? Should we expect a scheme change on D2 to players?
No way. No way.
Abe, 4 coordinators straight, same scheme. They finally got the guy who runs the scheme, who created the scheme. All right. They went from Jonathan Gannon. They went to Sean Desai. They had Matt Patricia. And then obviously last year they got Vic Fangio. So they're not changing anything.
It's one thing to keep the scheme, but it's another thing to keep the scheme and you have success with the scheme where you've been to 2 Super Bowls, winning records, division titles. Why would you change the scheme?
And look at how much better the authentic person who created it did for you last year versus the knockoff. The guys who
you had the guy who made the light bulb.
Right, exactly. Instead of the dude
instead of selling it. Instead of the guy who sells the light bulb, you had the guy who made the light bulb.
Yep, exactly. Brian Pumper checks in. What's up, Pump? We have the next Jimmy Graham in Project 89, Super Bowl champion Johnny W's. You fools dare question his greatness. Johnny Wilson is literally tragic. In fact, he will be cut in training camp this year.
Yep.
See you, Johnny.
Yep. Unfortunately, he will be. Again, you know what he'll be a product of? He was a tweener between a tight end and a wide receiver in height and in speed. And unfortunately, he wasn't good at being one or the other. And so I liked him as a red zone potential. I did. I mean, I just don't think there's a spot on this team. You know what, though, Xander? There could be a spot somewhere else for him.
All right, so you liked him as a red zone potential. Yeah, I did too. And then I watched him in the Super Bowl. You know, I needed you for one play, guy. Jalen had a flicker past you under duress. He'll hopefully trust his receiver.
Get him in the hands.
Who was on the field occupying space in the Super Bowl, and the ball hits his hands like a water balloon, and it falls to the turf.
I know.
And in that moment, I said, I don't care if the score is 30-0 or however bad we were whooping the Chiefs' ass in that Super Bowl. I said, get that guy off my squad.
Whooping.
Sorry, Pump. Brian Pump again. Sills, I feel Jordan Davis' job is in question. Anyone could do his job. We got that one. Johnny Mack would be a solid filler. Johnny Mack Sills would be a solid filler.
Man. You think they pick it up?
I do. I think the
I don't
Eagles,
think it's that expensive. 11-2 for him.
Well, let me just tell you something, man, about Howie.
If they pick it up, they're not giving him a 3-year extension because
no, they're not. I'm not saying they're doing that. I'm talking about specifically right now. You know, we talked about Howie yesterday and like where he learned how to be GM and under Joe Banner and all those things and like what makes Howie great. Well, the other thing that Howie that does a lot differently than Banner is he's more political. Like, remember when John told you Nick Sirianni is a more political coach? Well, I think Howie's more political with the players. Like, he doesn't want the players to feel like they're transactional, even though they are to Howie. Like, you see him hug players. Like, I don't think he wants to upset the apple cart. And the easiest thing for him to do right now to maintain camaraderie, to maintain togetherness, to maintain a sense of team on that defense is make Jordan happy. And I know that might not be the smart thing to do, but it's not a high risk. It's not like you're paying him $30 million, paying him 12, whatever. Do it. Keep Jalen Carter happy. Keep all the other people, Zach Bond happy. Keep Nolan Smith happy. Keep everybody together this year. If I have to upset the apple cart, I'll do it down the line in a different way.
I'm going to show you what GMs do. Here's a piece of paper. It's got Dan Morgan's name on it. He's the general manager of the Carolina Panthers. On it also is the travel secretary's name. I think you'll be really good. You're a good player. I'm taking Billy Bean from Moneyball. And this is how good GMs are.
I know.
You know what, Xander? The bottom line is, that sounds all nice. Howie is honest. Here's where you are.
I know,
Dallas.
but
Here's where you are, Dallas. You're a casualty of the cap. We love you. You want to stay? The only way you stay is if you take a pay cut. You know, Xander, nobody wants,
that's when you're at push
wants to have reach arounds.
I know.
In situations like this, you want to have a guy go like this. I really like you. I wanted you to stay. Here's the general manager's name, Andrew Berry in Cleveland. You've got the secretary on here. hey, I just moved my family here and I'm really thinking about, the parade we just had. Yeah, I get it, man. Business is business, but here we are. Xander, players in pro football and in pro sports, they just want to be dealt with like
No,
professionals.
I know, but I think where
And
Howie
being
is.
like that sometimes gets the GMs in trouble when you have, remember, never fall in love with your guys.
I
Fall
know.
in like with them.
I know you're right about that, but here's the thing. I think what you just said, what you just explained is exactly what Howie will do when push comes to shove. Goddard's not playing this year without a new deal. Okay, goodbye. He's
Don't
not
you
there
think
yet.
he said this to
But you're
Hassan?
not there yet with Jordan Sills. You're there next year.
Don't you think he said this to Hassan? Listen, you've been so productive here. We really like you. Here's Joe Douglas's number. We just traded you here. Listen, I appreciate everything you did here. Have a great one here.
Yeah, he said that.
And to me, because you know why? That's how you keep relationships with agents.
Yeah.
That's how you keep relationships with GMs. Doing this to a player, Xander. Hey, fuck you. You suck. I fucking hate the way we negotiated. I can't stand. That's not how you keep the rapport he has and all the avenues. This guy's secret, Howie Roseman's secret, is how he deals with agents and other GMs. Why do you think he can get on the horn and call Mickey Loomis again and try to fleece that guy for another player? You know why? It's not going, hey, I got him. That's not what that
No,
guy
I know.
does.
Howie has said off the record to John that he hates when people put out he fleeces people. He hates it. It's one of his least favorite media headlines because it makes his job harder.
Absolutely harder, man. There is no doubt about it. So GMs don't get this. GMs don't want to show other GMs up. That's not what the media will do that. We will.
Yeah, it's like a respect thing.
Yeah, dude, because they've got it. Hey, come draft day. You mean to tell me Howie doesn't want to have the Saints as a part of a team? How do you know that Kellen Moore doesn't call him? And because they had a shitty relationship and how they dealt with, dude, if you're the Saints, people would be like, I don't want to deal with it. Well, Howie gave him every chance to put the kid in their starting lineup, Zach Bond. They never did it. Howie did it. Hey, guess what? I'm going to deal with Howie Roseman. If I'm Mickey Loomis, you know why? He sees something on our staff that maybe we didn't see from now on. I'm not trading that guy. How come Howie wants that guy? Wait a minute. Howie wants a 32nd pick and he wants to get a quarterback? Well, wait a minute. Howie goes, well, I want a first rounder next year. And you're going to sit there. Believe me, Xander, if the Saints call him to trade for a quarterback, that's a 1 next year. Now, if the Saints are calling to trade for a wide receiver, that's a 2 and a 3 this year. But a quarterback, that changes the game.
Yeah, I agree.
That changes the game. All right, my friend. I appreciate. Hey, dude, you guys are doing a great job, man. Those topics are really great.
Thanks, bro.
John just goes, hey, I'll take him a 10. I was like, wait a minute.
Johnny Mac doesn't like hypothetical topics. All right. It's very hard to create a show in April 17th without having a little bit of hypothetical. I mean, a little bit of hypothetical, but I digress. Thank you for supporting the show, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Xander. I appreciate you, brother, man. Absolutely fantastic. Have a great one, man.
Thank you, man. Thanks, everybody.
That was awesome stuff, man. Great. Hey, by the way, the conversations are going to heat up 7 days to tonight when it comes to the NFL draft. I am going to throw this topic off at you next. By the way, don't forget, Brent Musburger is going to join us. He was just recently awarded the Pete Rozelle Award, and he will be going into the Hall of Fame in August when the class goes in and they have the Hall of Fame game. So I can't wait to talk to Brent. Brent was the voice of college football along with Keith Jackson. I wrote this down here. Here were my 5 guys that I've covered in all of the stuff going on with Lee Corso. And I'll say something about Corso before we take a timeout. Here, and I put these down, my top 5 voices of college football during my playing days and during my broadcasting days. 1, Keith Jackson, legendary voice. Every kid on the planet wanted his name spoken by Keith Jackson. Every kid. Every single kid wanted Keith Jackson to call his name in a broadcast. Brent Musburger. Another one. Every kid wanted to be interviewed by Brent Musburger. He called so many of my games because he worked with CBS and he worked with Eric Parsegian. Charlie Jones. I love Charlie Jones. He called the national championship games. Very seldom was college football outside of the Rose Bowl on NBC. We were on NBC a bunch of times, which was not heard of back then. So Charlie Jones. Beano Cook. I had a chance to meet Beano Cook. I thought Beano was the voice of college football forever. I loved Beano. And then the last one is Lee Corso. It's funny, Lee Corso drafted me for the USFL for the Orlando Renegades. And I remember going up and meeting him. And I'm talking about the original USFL. Lee was the head coach and the general manager of the Orlando Renegades. And he lived in Orlando all the way up until right now, where he announced today his retirement. And I went up. I met with Lee. I can't remember who the owner was, but I met with Lee Corso, and they were going to draft me in the first round of the USFL draft. And I remember coming back, and Jimmy goes, "Do you really want to do this?" I said, "Jimmy, they're offering me a lot of money." He goes, "Dude, you're going to be a top 5 pick. Do you really want to do this?" And I go, "No." And he showed me the letter that I show to you guys all the time, that the Patriots want to see me and the Patriots want to draft me in the first round. Okay. So I came back and I decided at the very end not to do it. I was going to go to the USFL. That's right. Brent Musburger, you are looking live at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. That's right. Those were great, man. Absolutely awesome. Musburger will join us at 5:30. Don't forget, my friends, I appreciate everybody coming aboard. Please hit that like button. Don't forget my great friends at Morgan & Morgan. With over $30 billion recovered, the number one track record when it comes to the top injury law firm in America. That's what Morgan & Morgan is. These folks go out and they get results. The folks on what they're doing in California. Houses burned down. People dropped insurance. Morgan & Morgan is in there cleaning house right now to make sure that those families don't get it taken advantage of from those insurance companies, and they're getting restitution for those families. This is a business that is owned by family members, and it's family run. Ultima, John, Dan, who's been on here, I've showed you what it's about. Morgan & Morgan is not just one of these corporate companies. This is a company that is family run, and it's been that way for over 35 years. I told you about the family here in PA. Almost $30 million they got in recovery. The insurance company went in and wanted to only give them $650,000. Not happening. Down in Florida, a family got $13 million in recovery. They only offered them like $300,000 or something like that. That's not going to happen. If you're ever injured, this is the easiest decision you'll ever make in your life. Go to forthepeople.com/big cells or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/big cells or pound law 529. And do me a favor, you tell them Big Cell sent you.
This is Eric. When he got injured in a car accident, he called Morgan & Morgan. He not only gets a lawyer, he gets trial lawyers like Sam and Jessica who are in it to win it. He gets his own investigators with briefcases, leather ones. And if you ever have questions, our customer service folks keep things rolling. Injured? We're your army. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone & Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Rick Sills National Football Show. Brent Musburger will join us. That'll be at 5:30 Eastern Time. I was really glad to see this for TJ Edwards in Chicago. The kid gambled and he won. He gambled and he won. Just signed a contract extension, 2 years, $20 million, 16 signing bonus, 34 starts since he's been a Bear. 284 in tackles, 7 sacks, 5 interceptions. He's been a heck of a player for them. He gambled. This is a good thing for free agents looking at Philly. You need to look and think like a player and how a player would see that. You know what fans would say? Fuck him. He's a Chicago Bear. No, you're missing it. If I'm a free agent and I'm one of these new guys they signed, and I just see TJ Edwards sign a contract extension in Chicago, man, the Philadelphia Eagles took a UDFA, started him at linebacker, put him in, had the courage to play a guy who wasn't even drafted. Am I right when I say this? They cut a 3rd rounder, right? And Edwards became the starter, right? And TJ goes on, signs a contract with the Bears, and then he gets another extension. If I'm sitting around talking to my agent, man, I'll tell you what, if you go to Philly and you produce, they may not pay you, man, but other places are going to pay you. DeAndre Swift, Milton Williams. I know those were draft picks. Josh Sweat, Kaiser White. Damn. They may not sign you. But I'll tell you, man, I like that. That's kudos to Philly. They were right to pay him. He was a good player. Here's a guy who's a great example. It's not when you're drafted, it's where you're drafted or not drafted. It's where you play. The Eagles didn't even draft him, but the Eagles had a good organization, played him, developed him into an NFL player. I look at that as the glass half full in a good way. Okay? He's close to home, like Greg's saying. Played his ball at Wisconsin. He just bought a house in Wisconsin with his wife. Good for him, man. That's what it's about here. That's a good, by the way, that's a good thing. Hey, real quick on Corso. Corso's importance to college football. How important was Lee? I'm going to say this to you about that game day show. That game day show on Saturdays is the only show that I get up for at 6 o'clock in the morning to watch. There's no show sports-wise, not even an NFL game when they play overseas, that I get up early to watch other than game day. And Corso made that. There are very few benchmark shows. I'll give you this. What do you think is more of an entertaining show to watch? The NBA on TNT or game day on Saturdays with the fellas sitting around breaking down, going on site, college football? What's a better show? Those are the two most significant shows. Okay? Game day to me is the best college. It's the best show on ESPN. There is not a better show. First Take's not better. PTI's not better. There's nothing they do. Okay? Anywhere on that network that's better than game day. Get this. Steve says that Moro Ajomo's the next guy to get a bag. Then why are they looking at DTs and wanting to draft a defensive tackle? If that's the case, why would this just shows you again? Here's another. This guy right here. Let me see. M. Reyes, Dick Train, and what's the other guy? RC3. Champions of the L's. And here's another guy. Steve Ike. This guy's another one. This guy's another champion. He's another champion of L's. A guy, hey, another show here. Again, I'm telling you, M. Reyes is going to be the MC. And can you imagine? Stu, check it out. Here we go. Watch this. Hey, Steve Ike, what do you think of Moro Ajomo? This guy's an next Jerome Brown. Did you see him on the bench? Did you see him take that water bottle, squirt it in his mouth? Can you believe it? He was some player. Him and Booker T. Washington sitting there. What a guy. This guy's going to get another bag. Yeah. Ain't they trying to get Here's M. Reyes. Ain't they trying to get a defensive tackle? Nah. Moro Ajami Jomo. You see him on the sidelines? And then you got Dick Track on the other side. And M. Reyes going, hey, Dick Track, what do you think of his take? Well, he's right. Anybody on the team right now is the best player in the history of the National Football League. What are you, crazy? That's a great take, Dick Track, M. Reyes says. Then you look over again. Who's the other guy here? RC3. I agree with everybody. Fuck it. That's going to be the new show between Birds 365 and Big Sills. It's going to call, I got a new name, Sue. We're going to call it the Dipshits. Oh, man. Oh, hey, the new show called the Dipshits, hosted by M. Reyes. Oh, man. Holy shit. Ladies and gentlemen, brand new show starting on JAKIB Sports. Joe Krause is going to have a press release. What's the name of it? The Dipshits. I'd watch it too, Sue. You kidding me? Damn right I'm watching it. Kidding me, man? I'd support my guy M. Reyes hosting the show called The Dipshits. Oh, man. Sills, we got to start an award. The Maluk of the week. M. Reyes is like, yeah, I'm in. This is how we're going to pay. This is how we're going to pay M. Reyes. We're going to pay M. Reyes off of Mike Missinelli's failed website. Oh. Oh, my God. I apologize. Hey, hey, I'm really sorry for that one. Hey, I'm sorry. That may have been a little too. Oh, my God, man. Hey, how's M. Reyes getting paid? Yeah, those certificates they got at Wawa. They're on Missinelli's website that they're shutting down. Oh, man. Sorry, man. Kelly Green is the new gold jacket. Oh, man. Disapprove Sills takes. Oh, man. Oof. All right, let me get going here again. Dallas Goedert and Bryce Huff. Who's on the Eagles after next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday? Is Goddard or Huff still on the team after next Thursday, Friday, or Saturday? I think they're moving both guys. I think they're going to move. You ready? I think they move Goddard on day 2. I think they move Huff on day 3. Remember I said that. I want it to be in cement. April 17th, Goddard's getting traded on day 2. Huff is getting traded on day 3 on Saturday. Okay? Remember, you can't do too much work in the first round. What could Howie package up with Dallas Goedert? Now, could Howie do this? The Colts. The Colts want Goddard. Here are the teams that I know that want Dallas Goedert. The Colts, the Rams, the Bears, the Giants, and the Chargers. They want Dallas Goedert. So there's some value there. Hey, Chris, why wouldn't you think they're desperately trying to get out of and what Chris is not paying into? The Chargers want Bryce Huff. The thing holding the deal up, I know the Spanos family. Check them out. They follow me on Twitter too. Very close to those folks. You know what they want? They want Howie to eat 50% of Bryce Huff's contract. Okay? They want Bryce Huff in a 5, and they'll take the player. They want the Chargers 5. Oh, excuse me. They want a 5 from the Eagles and Huff, and they'll take him on. Howie's got to take 50% of that contract. No one's paying $17.8. But there's a way around it. Okay? Howie can cut that number down in half from, what is it, 17 million? Cut that number down to 8. That's a win. That's a win. And Jim Harbaugh wants a tight end in the building. They don't have one there. That would help Herbert. Hey, Dallas Goedert and Justin Herbert together. Remember something here. Look at what Harbaugh did. He stripped down the wide receivers and the tight end position in Los Angeles. They need wideouts, O-linemen, edge, and tight end. There's nobody in the draft better than Dallas Goedert. I get he's injured. The only reason that Dallas Goedert's on the market, do you not agree with me on this? The only reason that Dallas Goedert's on the market is because he's hurt. It's not because he sucks. That is the most nauseating thing for the Eagles and Howie Roseman to have to deal with. I got to get rid of a guy who doesn't suck. Huff sucks. Huff sucks. Goddard doesn't. Goddard led the Eagles in receptions in the postseason. This guy's, I think it's hard to move off of Dallas. I think it's harder than you think. I think teams have offered a lot of equity for Dallas Goedert. I think Howie and everybody in the building's going like this. Man, his life really, I wonder what Jalen thinks of this. Seriously, I wonder what Jalen Hurts thinks about losing Dallas Goedert. Huff, Huff's a financial nightmare. Goddard is an availability nightmare. Trade Goddard and a pick for TJ Watt could work. It's out of the division. It's out of the conference. They need a tight end. Wow. Dallas, wait a minute. Check this out. Leon, Dallas Goedert, DK Metcalf, and George Pickens for Aaron Rodgers. That's great looking. I mean, I like that. Or get this, and you draft Shedeur Sanders if he falls there, and you still sign Aaron Rodgers, and you sit Shedeur Sanders. You like that one too, Xander? You sign Aaron Rodgers after the draft. You draft Shedeur. You trade for Goddard in day 2. You put Goddard, DK, and George Pickens. That, I like that. Is Bryce Huffle Snuggles worse than Mike Mamula? Yeah, because the only thing that was wrong with Mike Mamula was that he was overdrafted. He was okay. Not great at all. Bryce Huff cost you $18 million. You signed him to a $51 million contract. I mean, and you moved off of an edge rusher in Reddick. He still won the Super Bowl. You know, quite frankly, the Bryce Huff deal it's so inconsequential right now. It didn't even have an impact on your Super Bowl team. But you know what it's having an impact on? Who to keep. Do you guys agree that the Bryce Huff contract, it had no significance in winning the Super Bowl, but it had significance in who to keep? Because let me ask you this. If Bryce Huff wasn't on the team, do you think that would have kept Sweat or Milton? If they didn't have Bryce Huff on the team, do you think they would have kept at least one of those guys and not let one go? Okay? They probably would have let Sweat maybe go because of the history of the knee. And Milton, they got in the 3rd. Now, they did get Sweat in the 4th. But Milton, maybe not because he was going to cost too much. You probably would have kept Sweat. Get this. Do you understand? Sweat's only making $2 million more or $1.5 million more than Bryce Huff. What do you think? I mean, right? Bryce Huff makes $1.5 million more. So when you guys are telling me that Josh Sweat makes too much money, You got a guy on the bench making 17.5. He ain't making that much more. You would have kept Sweat. Right? You would have kept him. All right. Let's go to this topic. By the way, at the bottom of the hour, can't wait. Legendary Hall of Famer Brent Musburger is going to join us. One of the greatest voices in sports. He's seen it all, done it all. There's nothing he hasn't called. Nothing he hasn't been part of. He will join us at the bottom of the hour. All right. Where are the Eagles most vulnerable at right now, April 17th? Let me get this roster up. Where do you feel that the Eagles right now is the biggest weakness on the team? O-line? Casey Eagle. I must have missed it, but I didn't see a spectacular edge rushing unit in the Super Bowl. I saw a bunch of good guys. You didn't have that. You're not weak at edge. I don't think the Eagles are weak at edge. I think you have to replace Josh Sweat. But how are you weak at edge when you're sitting here telling me that Josh Sweat's replaceable and Milton's replaceable? That Moro Jomo's going to get a bag. I don't think you're as weak as you think at edge. You know why? In Vic's scheme, it doesn't matter. You had guys with 7, 8 sacks. You had guys with more production, 22. You had 4 guys with double-digit sack years, and you couldn't get it done. This year, you didn't have one guy with double-digit sacks, and you got it done. What does that tell you? Now, ask yourself this. You know, I hear Xander and John and everyone that comes on our network say the Eagles are weak at edge. That hasn't been proven correct. When? When has that been proven? It wasn't last year. Was it in Vic Fangio's system? Am I wrong? Correct me. Were you weak a year ago at edge? You weren't sensational. You were functional. I don't even think you were special. You weren't special at edge. Why do you think you need to upgrade it? I think that's a misnomer. I think Vic sees that too. The big talk in Philly and around the country has been the Eagles are going to take an edge rusher. Why? It was a non-starter in the league all year long for the Eagles when you won a Super Bowl. I can get by with the guy, and I think that's some of the things that Xander said on some of these guys that you signed. Hey, you can go by committee maybe and get yourself 30 sacks. Could that be good enough? Was a year ago, wasn't it? Your 2 DTs are still intact. Right? And here's my problem with that philosophy of signing Walter Nolan. You signed Walter Nolan at 32. So are you dropping Moro Ojomo back in the rotation role? Because if I'm drafting somebody at 32, I'm drafting a fucking starter. I'm not drafting a guy to go get somebody water and have an ice cup on the sidelines. You know, I mean, so again, this goes back to signing an offensive lineman at 32 also. I'll go back in the draft in the second round to sign an O-lineman. With my first pick, that'll be in 2. Because if I'm going to sign an O-lineman, who's he going to play? Right guard? I'm going to sign a right guard at 32 in the first round. No way. People signed left guards, left tackles. They're saying right guards. That's not a value pick. Are you getting that? Like this guy, Will Campbell. You think the Eagles would draft that guy at 32? Probably because they could swing him out. I heard John McMullen say about Tyler Steen about going out and playing the tackle swings. That's a bust at third round. Nobody moves from inside to outside. Now you're trying to keep him on the roster and justify the pick when you're doing that. And personally, the reason they moved him inside because he wasn't with good enough feet. Remember when Stink came on, Mark Schlereth? What's the one thing that stops offensive tackles from succeeding in the league? They don't have good feet. They can't slide out. He can't. That's why they moved him to guard. Moving Tyler Steen to the swing tackle, they don't have no intention of that. Why? Because he can't play tackle. You don't move guys from out to in. Name me one time that you've ever heard that. Well, we'll make this guard a tackle. I mean, it's a good thought. But now you're saying the third round pick we took is a backup. Okay? I guess. I don't really think Tyler Steen's that good a player. I think now you're trying to find a spot for him and justify the third round. I don't see it. I don't. Okay, you can't play right guard. Can't play right guard. That's the easiest spot on the team. That's why it's been a revolving door for the Eagles. Is because it's multifaceted to be able to find another component, another piece to put in that old line in between a superstar center and a great right tackle. Isaac Seumalo, Mekhi Becton, Cam Jurgens. Shit, if Cam Jurgens is not even a guard. He's an undersized guard, and he's a perfect center. He played it at an alternate Pro Bowl level, and Tyler Steen can't win the job? I mean, come on. Now you're trying to you're trying to justify the pick. This is a bomb pick, in my opinion. Because now you're trying to, well, let's see if he could be this. So get this. He couldn't play tackle, which he was initially drafted at. I moved him to guard. Now he can't play guard. Now you're downgrading him to the swing tackle? Now you're trying to find a job. He's okay. Fred Johnson was better. Okay? So, I mean, vulnerable at the right guard. I mean, what's your plan there? To recreate what you did with Mekhi Becton. Did you see what Stoutland said? What was that? I guess Stoutland was at a golf course. What did he say about Mekhi Becton? Oh, yeah. He's really happy for him. It's bittersweet that we have to lose him. I really enjoyed coaching the player, and it's going to be hard to replace him. He was fun, and he was a lot of joy to coach. It's a pretty good compliment coming from Jeff Stoutland. You know, it's funny. We talk about the swing guys you had on defense like Oren Burks and Isaiah Rodgers. Well, your swing guys last year were Fred Johnson and Tyler Steen. They look at Tyler Steen as a swing guard, swing tackle. He's a backup in Philly. They need another guy that they could play on the edges. He can't play tackle. Okay, he failed at tackle. He failed at guard, and now you want to make him the swing offensive tackle? Bullshit. He's gonna come in for Landon Dickerson, and he's gonna come in for whoever is the starting new right guard. So I'll ask you, what's the plan? You're gonna tell me again what I said at the top of this show. You believe in coaching more than you do the players on the roster. Is that correct? I like Trevor Keegan. I do. Every single time I ask a question, you go back to coaching, which is not a horrible take. However, you believe more in the coaching than you do the talent every time I bring the talent up to you. Is that correct? As much as I like Clint Hurt and love Clint Hurt, I like Jalen Carter better. Don't you? As much as I like Bobby King, I like Zach Bond better. As much as I like the new quarterback coach you got from Bowling Green, I like Jalen Hurts better. Don't you? Okay, well, I mean, the coach can't supersede the player. Micaiah Becton, you're not going to get that replaced. Do you understand? Every single place that this offseason so far, it looks to me like it's been a downgrade. You've downgraded at left end. You've downgraded at safety. You've downgraded at right corner. You've downgraded at tight end. You've downgraded at right guard. This is all off a Super Bowl championship team. You've downgraded. And you've even downgraded. In my opinion, in your swing guys. Can it be fixed? Yes. Coaching does matter. Backup isn't a job? No, he failed at left tackle. Okay? He failed at left tackle. He failed at the left tackle, Tyler Steen. He failed now at the right guard. He couldn't beat Mekhi Becton out. And now you're pulling him to a swing tackle? Well, okay. Well, then that's his job. Dude, a third-round pick? I could get a guy to do that in the fifth round. I could get Fred Johnson to do that. I could sign a free agent to do that role, and I don't need to spend a third-rounder. Shit, that third-rounder, man. Jalen Hurts was a second-rounder. That third-rounder is a big pick. Okay? I mean, you're missing the point. Backup isn't – they didn't draft Tyler Steen to be a backup. Backups, are in the fifth and sixth round in free agents. Take a look at your backups now. Look at the backups you have now. Cal Patera, drafted as a backup, later rounds. Matt Pryor, free agent. Tanner McKee, 7th round. Booker T. Washington, backup. Trotter, 5th rounder. Sidney Brown, 3rd rounder. Sidney Brown's the next guy up. The 2 third-round draft choices this year have a big year coming up, don't you think? Sidney Brown and Tyler Steen. I keep hearing what a good drafter he is. Okay, fair enough. Sidney Brown. How's Sidney Brown and Tyler Steen been? Those are top 3 picks, top 3 rounds. What do you think of Sidney Brown? Often hurt, hasn't shown much. Tyler Steen, underproduced. Those are 2 third-round draft choices. All right. They're bringing guys in because they don't believe in those guys. Okay, Abe. He had 80 plays last year. He got hurt once. Dude, you're under the impression that if you're not in the lineup, they're gonna keep staying with you. Ask Dallas Goedert how that works. Right? So I think that old offensive line position going to be an interesting battle this camp. Where else? I think you're vulnerable at two positions. I don't think you're vulnerable at tight end. I think the tight end on the Philadelphia Eagles, the days of those great pass-catching tight ends in Philly are over. They're going to run the ball. They're going to use blocking tight ends. They don't throw across the middle anyway. They spend all their money on the edges. They are going to go by committee. That tight end position is lost. They don't need it. So, well, I'm going by your actions. Okay? Going by your actions. Yeah, just so you guys know, I get my takes by how they act. Not just randomly, as John would say, saying shit that I do. I follow what their actions are. I mean, like that press conference the other day, I took more away from it than anybody else because they said a lot to me where they were going in the draft, how many people they've brought in, how many positions that they're looking at. They haven't looked at one linebacker or one tight end. That's because they don't really value those positions. They paid all the money and all the equity they're going to get at linebacker this offseason. Hell or high water, they're going to go with Trotter and sign a guy maybe in one of those fifth-round guys and bring him in. Or they're going to go TJ Edwards, UDFA. I'm not ripping the process. I am not ripping it. More I think about we should trade Goddard for TJ. Why would the Bears do that with a guy who constantly is on the field and is awful productive? TJ Edwards is more productive than Dallas Goedert on a consistent basis. Why would I want to give up a solid here? Is Goddard a better player? Yeah. Is Goddard consistently a good player? No. Is TJ? Oh, TJ Watt. You got to really feel whether or not the Steelers, and Mike Tomlin's a defensive-minded coach, does he really want to move off of TJ Watt? You got to get the pulse of that. Now, there is a guy in the building that's got Eagle blood. Okay? There is a guy in the building with Eagle blood that worked with Howie. So you've got to put that into context. Okay? By the way, Brent Musburger's going to join us in a couple minutes. Look, that would look pretty decent. Dallas Goedert and Pittsburgh here to go to Xander, and I'll use Xander here. Dallas Goedert, tight end, DK Metcalf, and George Pickens, and Aaron Rodgers, and Shedeur Sanders backs him up. Now you're starting with a plan. You know what I'm saying? You got kind of a plan at quarterback because you haven't had a plan. The problem with the Steelers has been they don't have a plan at quarterback since Roethlisberger. I heard that Brad Holmes is working a deal and they want to try to keep him in Detroit. I like the player. I liked him when he was in Cleveland. I think he's a productive guy. He's still relatively young, But from what I understand, I think the Lions would like to keep him. And I don't think they'd want to move him. I really don't. You know, we saw Lee Corso retire today. And I've said this before. In my playing days, in my broadcasting days, which has now been 35 years, here are the names. Number one, if you had Keith Jackson call your name, Dan Sileo wanted to play, you sat around and go, Keith Jackson, did he call my play? Did he call my name? The next was Brent Musburger. You know how many games, I've been going back and forth. If you look at my X account, all the guys at Oklahoma, because Barry Switzer's a dear friend of mine, and he offered me a job. He offered me a scholarship, and, because my folks were on the East Coast, he let me out, and I decommitted, and I went to Miami instead. And when Musburger and Ara Parseghian called those Miami games, he would be on the Notre Dame calls. He was on the Oklahoma calls for us. I also had Charlie Jones call our national championship game on NBC. Bino was always great to us. He loved the Miami teams back then. Not many people did. And Lee Corso, obviously, important to what that studio show was, because Brent, in my opinion, was the first guy with studio shows with the NFL on CBS. But that game day on Saturdays on ESPN, it's pretty much the only show I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and watch. And when I grew up, my uncle's Andy Robustelli. He introduced me to Frank Gifford, right? And I got a chance to go and meet all these guys at CBS back in the day. And Jimmy the Greek and these guys. When you're a kid, you watch that show. Well, he's just been now awarded. And by the way, last year, our very own Merrill Reese won the Pete Rozelle Radio and TV Award. So I thought Brent was in already. So without further ado, let's bring him in. I'm so happy to bring Brent Musburger in. Brent, how you doing, my friend?
Living the dream, Danny. Those were the days, the Miami Hurricanes. Wow. So many great games with them. Unbelievable. The old Orange Bowl. I tell people that it was Jimmy Johnson, Doug Flutie, Catholics versus the I go on and on. I mean, hey, can you imagine what the salary would have been for your great Hurricane teams if they'd have had what they have today? I was laughing last night. I knew I was coming on with you, and I was thinking that would have been the highest salary team of all time.
How about this one? Think about those FSU and Oklahoma teams that we had during those times with the Boz, Dion, and with Michael Irvin, playmaker, what those guys would be worth today. I mean, I saw they spent a ton of money, Brent, on at Ohio State for that team. I said there's no way in the world that they could keep that together. And that brings me to this question. What do you make of Nil? You've covered so many great legendary games when it comes to college sports. What do you think of Nil?
Well, maybe it's a little bit too much right now. Maybe it's the wild, wild west, but it's there because it was so abusive for so many years. I mean, let's face it. A lot of people were making money except for the stars, and that was the athletes themselves out there. And so, we've gone from one extreme to the other. And now, they face a problem, okay, because they're talking about socialism. In other words, one big pie and they cut up. However, hang on a minute, because I don't think the Big Ten and the SEC are going to go for socialism right now. They got things pretty good when you take a look at the checks that are coming. I do feel sorry for the ACC. I think they got left a little bit behind in this, and I have a lot of great memories of that conference. And I certainly don't have a solution. Indicative of what's going on is what occurred last week in Knoxville.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a pretty good quarterback. You're going to put your whole offense around him. They were in the playoffs last year, and all of a sudden, his people come in. They want more money, and Tennessee doesn't think he's worth it. But now they got to replace the quarterback. And that's not going to be easy. I think the young man is headed to UCLA. That seems to be gossip, Danny, that's out there. So we will see. But maybe the representatives didn't handle it well. Maybe they should have gone in and said, look, can we double this if we get back to the playoffs? Can we have something if we achieve, instead of just saying, give us this much more? I don't know. Listen, I'm not a representative of Tennessee or any other school.
You know what, though, Brent? You were ahead of this. I mean, do you know the heat that Brent Musburger used to get when he would talk gambling or paying players? You were doing this, Brent, in the 80s, and you must be laughing right now on how important you're seeing gambling now. That's part of another revenue stream for the NFL. When Jimmy the Greek, how many times Greek couldn't give during the NFL on CBS? He couldn't give, I forget what it was, the actual point score.
Right, the numbers.
Spread.
He couldn't give the spread. He couldn't give, Dan, he couldn't give -3 plus 10. That was actually the final request. And it wasn't when Pete Rozelle made it a request. I mean, it was an order. We couldn't use it. So we went to the checkboard. But now, if you go to ESPN, like I do every day, or CBS Sport, wherever you go, I mean, the bottom line is 1 point spread after another. I mean, I think, from my standpoint, it's healthy to get it out of the underground. Now, I have one serious reservation, and that is the smaller colleges and universities, not the big boys. They're gonna be under a microscope. But we've got some instances going around the country right now in basketball, where some smaller schools, the bookmakers are suspicious of what went on at serious games because, it's under the beacon. They're not on prime time any place or anything like that. And there are so many props out there on some of these sites. And what the bookmakers are scared of is the first half. Let's say that you're a youngster and you get in trouble playing cards or dice at school, whatever. Let's say you owe some money and you're a pretty good athlete and you're playing in a basketball game and your first half number over, let's say it's 8. Let's just say that. Pretty good player. So the gambler says, hey, look, you paid us off, kid. Make sure you score less than 8 in the first half, because what can then happen is in the second half, he can turn it loose and you can still win the game. So I have reservations about this because I'm not concerned about the big schools and that. I really am not. There could be some kids who are probably going to get themselves in trouble like they did at Arizona State. And there was some point shaving that goes on. But the computers today, instantly, bookmakers in any part of the country know, hey, there's money shown, a lot of money shown on that game all of a sudden. Let's keep an eye on that. In other words, in the old days, you didn't know for maybe 24 hours. Now, with computers, instantaneously when money's pouring in on game now. But, there was an awful lot of underground betting, especially with the National Football League. And I guess that's where I come from. There was gambling money that founded the league. I mean, let's be honest. My old friend Art Rooney, he got his stake in the Steelers because he was a successful horse player. So, yes, there's problems. You must always keep your eyes open. And I do think that the big boys, the DraftKings and the FanDuel, or the big boys, and MGM, ESPN Bet, I do think they need to be careful with props on players involved with smaller schools, okay? I really do think that there's a message out there that we've got to be really careful about. Well, heck, the NBA, I mean, a guy with Toronto got involved. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So you got to be on the alert. I'm a recreational player. I was never, because first of all, you can't beat it. I mean, let me pass this along to every youngster watching.
Hey, Brent, they don't make those castles on the strip of Vegas because they lost.
No, you're not going to beat them. The numbers are there. The numbers are, you know what I'm saying? So, I'm a pizza player. I do it to have a little entertainment, and along the way, I find the best contest in the country is probably Circa's Survivor, but it's a pretty good buy-in. It's $1,000 an entry, I think you get up to about 9 or whatever. And I got to tell you a funny story to show you how this goes. So I bought a couple entries, and what you do is you pick a team each week. You can only pick them once during the season, and they have to win the game. No spreads are involved. Okay, no spreads involved. Huge pot, millions and millions of dollars. Week 1, I was flat convinced there was no way the Cincinnati Bengals could lose to the New England Patriots. How'd that go, folks? Not so good. You know what I'm saying? So, but I did at least, I had the second entry on another team. I don't even remember, but that team won. So I've lost one entry. I go to week 2, and I'm a Raider guy, and I'm a season ticket holder. But I'm saying this is not a good Raider team. There is no way in the world that the Baltimore Ravens can lose this in week 2. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I'm out after 2 weeks. My entries are bada bang. You know what I'm saying? And I pay attention to this stuff. I pay attention every day. Like today, I'm reading Our Lad's draft guide. You know, I'm interested in what's going to happen. You know, I was looking at the Philadelphia Eagles in here, seeing what the heck, you know. So, but you can't beat it. The numbers are too tough. Have fun with it, and only bet what you can afford to lose. It's a bad addiction. It's a bad addiction. You know, alcoholism is a bad addiction. Gambling's a bad addiction. So just be careful.
Absolutely. I have to ask you.
Sure.
You've won so many awards. What does this award mean to you? The Pete Rozelle Radio TV Award. That again, and help me out, Brent, in the timeline here, because to me, I grew up with you when it came to the NFL on CBS, but I grew up with you as a player when you were calling the college football. Right. What does this award, though, mean to a guy like yourself that, you know, you're being recognized on Hall of Fame weekend?
Dan, it's the best award that I've ever received. Let me go back. Pete Rozelle, especially, his name is on it. I started as a newspaper man in Chicago, and first met Rozelle when he was a PR guy, okay, for the Los Angeles Rams. In those days, the PR men for every NFL team would travel into the city where the team was going. They'd get in about Tuesday or Wednesday, and they would take the writers out, okay, and they would fill them in on the team. And that's how I first met Pete Rozelle. And then he quickly moved up the ladder and became commissioner. And he was commissioner when the NFL Today started. Now, let's be perfectly honest. I'm a kid from Chicago. I'd covered a few games, you know, not of great merit for the CBS network along the way. But, you know, back in those days, guys who were named Musburger, they changed their last name. You know what I mean? So anyway, here I was. So, okay. So they call me and say, look, can you do the pregame show live? Prior to NFL Today in 75, Jack Whitaker and Pat Summerall taped it on Friday night. And that was the lead in to the games. And then Jack and Pat were always out in the field. And so Bob Wessler's idea was, let's go live, you and Irv Cross. And I loved that idea because I'd gone to Northwestern with Irv, and I'd met him and I'd been around him, and I knew what a great person he was, even though a great athlete out of the Gary, Indiana area. And so, but then about 60 days we go to air, I get a call from Bob. Brent, do you know a Miss America by the name of Phyllis George? And Dan, I said, Bob, I'm sorry, I don't follow the Miss America pageant. He said, I'm putting her in. He said, I think she's comfortable enough to be the first woman on a major sports broadcast. I'm not going to say no. I'm so happy to have this opportunity. Absolutely, bring her in. Now, I got to tell you something. No one could light up a room any quicker or any better than Phyllis George. It was amazing. And it was instant karma. You know, the three of us just got. I was a traffic cop, and I mean, everybody wanted to come in. And then the second year, we added Jimmy the Greek, and it went. Well, I want to give you a story about the President of the United States. Donald Trump used to visit the set on Sundays. Okay, wow. And he owned the USFL team. You know, he bought the Generals. He was going.
Whose idea was Jimmy the Greek?
Jimmy the Greek was Bob Wessler's idea. He called again. Danny called me and said, "Hey, do you know?" And I did know the Greek. I had been in Vegas enough that I honestly did know Jimmy. And but it was Wessler's idea. The whole thing, the NFL Today, and you know everything, the participants in that. And but But I want to tell one quick anecdote about the president, because we go out he take us out to dinner. He was a charming guy, very gracious, loved football. But the NFL had not let him in, and so he was in the USFL, and he wanted the USFL to be greater than the NFL. That was his goal. Donald always thinks huge, okay? That's what he thinks, okay. So he would say to us, I'm going in the fall, I'm going head-to-head. We tried to tell him, Donald, listen, there's no TV contracts. We can't leave the NFL to do the USFL. But, and even today, I smile and laugh when I watch what he's doing. He was not a good listener, okay?
I think that's carried over, Brent.
Yeah. He's got great ideas to go. But anyway, everybody would come at me. I met everybody from Hollywood came in to meet Phyllis, all the actors and actresses and everybody. So it was just a great time. And so I'm honored to get this award.
That's really awesome. Somebody asked us here to ask you a question here.
Sure.
Who was your favorite broadcast partner?
Well, listen, the fella, I had so many great memories. But now listen, I don't want to I loved everybody. All those people. But no one could equal Dick Vermeil in preparation and getting ready for games and teaching me about football. And even now, listen, Dan, I was just getting dressed out here in Montana, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, and my phone says NFL Hall of Fame. And I said, what's that about? Hello, Brent, it's Coach Vermeil. I said, Coach, you're not calling me on your regular phone. No, wow. Congratulations. And I said, I don't know what he's talking about. And he says, you've been named the winner of the Pete Rozelle Award. He was in the president's office again.
Oh, my God, and that's awesome.
It was awesome. I mean, Dick Vermeil is one of the great people of all time, okay? I covered him as a coach, okay? I was around him as a broadcaster, a great family man, great friend. There's nobody I respect more than Dick Vermeil. He's just a wonderful, wonderful guy.
What was the most difficult sport to cover?
Water polo.
And I looked at, by the way, just so people know how crazy this is for Brent, I found out that he was at one time an umpire. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so Brent was an umpire back in his early days of life. And so covering water polo, just covered water polo all the way to college basketball, college football. I mean, water polo would probably mean because you had to get the names right.
Yeah, no. And in those days, I did a water polo international, and we didn't have cameras underwater then. It hadn't been developed. Now think about what that is. You're just watching a bunch of heads bob up and down, and the ball get thrown back and forth. So that was the toughest. You mentioned umpiring, so I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I got kicked out of Northwestern for a year for operating a car as a freshman illegally. I got a car as a graduation president from Shattuck Prep School in Minnesota. And I wasn't going to be without that car, but freshmen could not have cars in Evanston. And of course, Brent did. I probably
could have. Does Christine Brennan know this?
Because I probably could have gotten away with this, except I didn't pay my parking tickets, and so the cops ratted me out. So I'll never forget the dean of students when I went in. And they told me I was out for a year, and he said, Brent, I was in the Marine Corps. And I'd like to recommend it. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me right now. I mean, I just got out of a military school. The last thing I want to do is go to boot camp someplace. So my father said, my father had been a referee in high school back in Montana. He said, Brent, you don't want to come back to Montana this winter. He said, why don't you go down to Daytona Beach and go to Al Summers umpiring school? So I did. I loved every minute of it. It was the year the Daytona 500 track opened, which was right next to where we trained as umpires. And so they came in and hired us as ticket takers that first year. And I'd never seen so much cash in my life. People lined up from Alabama all night long to come in and see the first Daytona 500. And then we would fill the gunny sack with cash. They paid $3 a car and $1 a head. And they said, listen, we've got to get people into the infield. Don't bother to check the trunks. We know they're smuggling people in, but never mind. Just get them in. So you'd fill a gunny sack and you go into Mrs. France's office and you dump the sack on the table. Thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands by the time of the day. So it was unbelievable going out. So I worked the Midwest League, and I was the youngest umpire there. And my favorite was Tim McCarver, came out of Memphis. Notre Dame thought they had him. He was a heck of a running back in high school. But he decided to take the money with the Cardinals, and so he was sent to Keokuk, Iowa. That was his first team, and I was the plate umpire the night that Tim McCarver broke in. And the one thing that the plate umpire doesn't want a catcher to do is to turn around on him.
Right.
You can talk to him. Hey, he said, that was pretty good. Now, you can't be missing that. Throw it back to the pitcher because the crowd doesn't know that conversation that's going on, okay? But McCarver, he jumped around on me at least twice in the first 3 innings, at least, okay? And the manager's name was Frank Kalo. Mrs. Kalo, she was sitting back there behind me. Musburger, get a lunch bucket and get a job. I mean, I could still do that. Shoom, over my head.
Oh, my
So
God.
I finally go out and I sweep the plate off and I say, listen, young man, I know you're pretty ballyhooed and all of that, but let me tell you something. You turn around on me once more and I'm going to kick your ass out of here. And I don't care what you say, but you look at the pitch and you got it, Timmy. We became really good friends after that. He never forgot the day, but yeah, that was Tim McCarver's debut.
I love that. Brent, let me ask you this one
Sure.
here. How important was it? We get Angelo Cataldi on here, and when I first started in the business, it seemed that a lot of people came from the print business and came from journalism and were paper guys. How important was it for you to be a journalist in Chicago, and how much of an impact did that have on you and your broadcasting and how you presented the facts and how you, because again, it's all about presentation. We know that, but you always seem to balance the facts and also the presentation because that's important to get viewers. But how important was that journalistic background for you?
Dan, it was critical, absolutely critical. It taught me how to go get a story, Chicago's Americans, where I started, and was a columnist and a baseball writer, and I became a football writer. It was 1963, okay, and the Bears were destroyed out on the West Coast by San Francisco and John Brody. They hung a 50 on them. And there was an incident involving the beat writer and George Hallis and somebody else on the team apparently coming back home. And on Tuesday, when practice resumed, the Bears practiced and played in Wrigley Field. The editor came to me and said, Brent, you're covering the Bears for the rest of the season. I said, excuse me? He said, yes. Go to Wrigley Field. George Hallis wants to meet you. Okay. They ran the field for the first base dugout to the left field fence. That's where they were practicing. Bill Wade was a quarterback. George Allen was a defensive coordinator. And I owe a lot to George and Bill George, the middle linebacker. They taught me a lot about defensive football. So I go in, there's Mr. Hallis, the fedora, suit, tie, standing on the sideline, go introduce myself. Dan, I'll never forget this. I'm standing there, and I'm a Montanan, so I recognize gunfire when I hear it, okay? So I kind of turn around, and I look up in the rafters in Wrigley Field in left center field, and there's this big guy up there, big guy with, BB gun, and he's hunting pigeons. And I said, Mr. Hallis, what's that? Oh, Brent, that's Doug Atkins. He's one of our defensive linemen, and he's got a knee injury. So we don't have him practice, but we do want him to come to practice. So I let him hunt the pigeons. Mind-blowing. That's my introduction. Now, listen, Doug Atkins, for those people who don't know,
phenomenal Hall of Fame player,
was one of the fiercest defensive linemen I had ever covered in my life.
Absolutely.
Okay. It was unbelievable. Okay. But that was my introduction. So those are stories that I went to get. And I guess if there's one thing, and baseball in particular, it's become such a game of numbers. And I like the people. You know, like the reason why my life was so great was the people I was around. I mean, the athletes, yourself, and Andy Robustelli. I came a little bit after that. Muhammad Ali, I was around him in Chicago. I mean, those are the people who, and I will tell you that I think 50% of our audience, especially females, still like the stories of the
Yeah.
people and not how high the home run was hit,
No.
how many millimeters it went outside the wall, and how fast every pitch. I honestly think I still enjoy the people. And
So
the
you,
stories. So,
Brent, you like the see me? I miss the storytellers.
yeah, I think that was key anyway. So that's how it all came about.
How about this one here? A couple last ones here for you, Brent.
Sure.
For you, what was the most of all the events that you've covered? What do you think was the most impactful event that you ever covered in your career? The one that, again, I mean, you've covered Olympic Games, you've covered the National Football League. You were around when Horning ended up, along with Karras, got suspended because of gambling. You've been around, you've seen it. You've seen the Ali protesting the war. What one event, though, in your career do you go, you know, that will always be something I remember that was one of the most significant moments in my career?
Super Bowl III. I was a newspaper man and a radio broadcaster at WBBM, owned by CBS, back in Chicago. Everybody has seen the picture. Joe Namath in the lounge chair, a lady asking for an autograph, and there are 6 media people around him, and I'm on that left-hand corner over there. It's the only picture that I ever ask an athlete for an autograph, because Joe lived in Jupiter, Florida, where I lived for a while. But there were many people in the National Football League and connected with the National Football League who didn't think the AFL was anywhere near its equal or should be merging with them. Now let's think about Las Vegas. 18-point spread, okay? An 18-point spread.
Unheard of.
The Colts, 18, okay? And here is Joe Namath out there at poolside, guaranteeing to us that he was going to win that game with the New York Jets. That game is what really ushered in the merger and catapulted the AFL up there with the then NFC. And my press pass allowed me into the photo booth. I was upstairs, and guess who was next to me? None other than the great one himself, Howard Cosell. I'll tell you, Brent, the Colts are choking. This is unbelievable. Joe Willie Namath is one of the great quarterbacks of our lifetime. My ear still rings from, I got the play-by-play. I got the entire broadcast from when Howard Cosell became good friends, actually, with Howard through the years. But he was on the money. I mean, you know, Joe Namath, if you just look at the numbers that the quarterbacks have achieved who are in the Hall of Fame, Namath's not up there with the leaders through the years, but he did more to bring about the merger with that victory than anybody else. It was a legendary moment in American sports history.
Don't you think he brought in and ushered in broadcasting, sports broadcasting too, in that game? Don't you think that game
Absolutely
had so much and resonated sports broadcasting because
Absolutely.
everyone wanted to be a part of that?
No question. And well, here we are still talking about it today.
Yeah, right. You
know, no question. I mean, and you know, Joe Willie named Broadway Joe. I mean, he was in the right city at the right time. Okay, that also, that was the media hub. Okay, that's when those big newspapers, you know, they were so important. The New York Times and the New York Post, and I became buddies with all the Dave Anderson at the Times. He and I went to the banquet that night at the country club, and Joe was honored. But it's still, when you think about it, I couldn't even get close to a quarterback today at a Super Bowl, leave alone go out to poolside and have an interview out there a couple days before the game. It was great. So that was the most important game that I was ever around.
I can't wait until August. when you get a chance to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And Brent, I hope we get to do this again. You're a national treasure, and you're part of. I grew up with you, Brent. I hope that doesn't age you and make you feel that way. But I mean, I watched you as a kid. You called my game. You personally called our games and my name out on national TV, and it was one of you and Keith Jackson. I'll always remember that, and along with Pat Summerall too when I got to the NFL. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thanks, Dan. I enjoyed it, my friend.
Thank you so much. The great Brent Musburger. That was awesome, man. Really great. I mean, he called the Raider games too for a while. So pretty good stuff, man. I thought you guys would enjoy that. I mean, is he not one of the GOATs when it comes to sports broadcasting? Really good. We'll get Mike Golick on, I believe, tomorrow. I think Mike's coming on with us tomorrow. Yeah. So that was really good stuff. Guys, I really appreciate it. If you could do me a favor, if you could please hit the like button. As always, and as always promised here on this program, we bring you the biggest names in sports broadcasting and entertainment. That has been a mantra of mine that I have made sure that I have kept for over 35 years. And that will not leave anywhere or whatever I always do, especially this show. And we will bring you some of the biggest names. I'm working on Joe Namath, by the way. Okay, I am. I'm working on getting Joe Namath. So, guys, I appreciate it very much. Please hit that like button. You guys have been super. We are 7 days out from the National Football League's draft. I can't wait. Please hit that like button. Big Z, Joe, thank you very much. 2 to 6 tomorrow, and we'll see you on the flip side.